the quarterbacks here for 2 years have talked about how close they are. Is that always the case in your experience? And like, how much does that help, especially during a week like this?
I think it's huge. And you got to give Tavita Pritchard, our quarterbacks coach, a lot of credit for building that type of camaraderie in that room. And David Blau as well, the assistant quarterbacks coach, just truly good guys that like each other. Like across the board, I would let anybody in that room marry my hypothetical daughter except Hartman, because he's way too good looking. But just phenomenal people above all else, hard workers, professionals, and they're truly like a joy to be around every day.
Man, Hartman gets a lot of love for a guy that's probably never going to see, all due respect, an NFL field. I don't think he will. In a regular season game, look, anything can happen. Quarterbacks get hurt at an alarming rate. By the way, is Kingsbury married? I don't think he is, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah. I bet he has enjoyed himself over the years as a single person, and he's still relatively young, right? He's in his early 40s. Is he? He's definitely 40. He's older. He's got to be in his early 40s, something like that.
He is. Okay, I looked up Kingsbury age, and that was not the thing to look up. Now I have to add in Cliff because it's just somebody else named Kingsbury. That didn't even come up either. That's weird.
All right. It does not look. I'm looking at just the Wikipedia page. It does not look like he's married. It does not look like.
Cliff's 46, by the way.
He's 46 years old. 46 years old. Good morning, everybody. It's a Football Friday. Excited about that. Sam Hartman won't be the backup. Josh Johnson will be to Marcus Mariota. That is right now, my very strong lean on what will happen Sunday. I believe Marcus Mariota is going to be the starting quarterback for our team, and I think Jaden's going to be out on Sunday. We'll see. We'll get a kind of official news, I believe, in a few hours. In about an hour, they take the practice field at 11:10. And Quinn said that if Jaden doesn't practice today, he won't play. My guess is he doesn't practice today, and he'll be ruled out. We'll find out more during the course of this show. Ben's going to join us at 11:30 this morning, not noon, because Quinn is going to talk sometime between 12 and 12:20. We'll carry that live. We'll probably know before then, based on whether or not Jaden practiced and was there for it. But that's right now what I believe will happen. I just called an educated guess. I think we're going to get Marcus Mariota Sunday against the Raiders. This from Danny A. Danny A writes, "We're in trouble if it's Mariota." Kevin, do you remember how upset most fans were that they signed Mariota? I do, Danny. Danny A. But he played last year, and everybody fell in love with him. He played great in the Carolina game after stumbling a little bit early on, and came in and played very well in very much, a game at the end of the year that didn't mean anything for the opponent, the Dallas Cowboys. I think Marcus Mariota is, he's up there on the list of backup quarterbacks in the league. Cousins is probably the number one backup quarterback in the league. You knew I'd slip that in, but he is. He should be starting probably for, 10 teams minimum in the league right now. But Atlanta doesn't want to trade him, even if there was interest earlier this week in him. They are asking for a very steep price. But Mariota, probably in the top 5, top 10 worst case of backup quarterbacks. I would say top 5. See if somebody's done a list on the backup quarterbacks in the NFL. Cousins is clearly number 1. I don't have everybody right here in my in the picture, but
I got Seth Walder 3 days ago ranking backup NFL quarterbacks. I mean,
go ahead.
It seems to be pretty poignant given that Jake Browning and Carson Wentz are going to start against each other on Sunday. Number 1, Kirk Cousins. Yep. Number 2, Jake Browning. Number 3, Jackson Dart. Number 4, Marcus Mariota. I disagree. Number 5, Tanner McKee. That's where I'll stop.
Tanner McKee, by the way, the Eagles love him. You know that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, they really think he should be playing somewhere. So he's a top 5 backup quarterback. There's no doubt. Look, yes, I remember the reaction when they signed him. It was, they weren't signing him to be a starter. They were signing him to be a backup, and people seem to have an issue with it, but we don't have to deal with what we felt like in the off season of 2024. He played. And not only that, he's been a terrific mentor. I would say that Jayden Daniels, if you took every single interview from the time that he started to play, mini camps, OTAs, etc., I bet you he has mentioned Marcus Mariota's name more than anybody else unprompted. That is a hell of a quarterback room. Kingsbury, all right, Mariota, Blau, Tavita Pritchard. They really built, a support group and a mentoring kind of a group around Jayden that totally fit. And he really has enjoyed. Remember the scene with Mariota just slowing him down after that Atlanta, overtime play where he took the big shot and he went right to Mariota on the sideline. I feel good about Mariota. Do I feel as good as Jayden Daniels starting? No. There's at least a 5, 6, 7 point difference. It's a touchdown difference in the game. The game's got a chance to go either way without Jayden playing in it. With Jayden playing in it on Sunday, given the Raiders coming short week, Washington with the bye, etc., the mini bye, I would have thought that this would have been, as I described yesterday, a total get-right football game. But now, you got a guy that hasn't played since the end of last season. Exciting game. Threw a touchdown pass on essentially the last play of the game to beat the Cowboys to Terry McLaurin. You know what? I bet you he throws to Terry more than anybody else. We'll see. They don't have to really worry about, Mariota's, running ability. He's certainly capable of running everything they run, the QB draws, the QB counters, the QB powers, certainly the zone reads, the scrambles. For me, I think, and I don't know why I think this, I think the opportunity for drive-killing throws is just much higher. That's what I would say about Mariota. There's no reason to say that based off his performance last year. But Marcus over the years can be inaccurate. Marcus can take some risks, can, put the ball in harm's way. But he didn't do it last year in any of the opportunities he had. The Carolina game, 18 of 23 for 205 yards, 2 touchdowns. Remember, he took a couple of those big losses and a couple of big hits early in that first series when they went 3 and out. 11 rushes in that Carolina game for 34 yards. And then second half of the Dallas game, which quite frankly was one of the worst halves that Jayden played. The Cowboys seemed to, have his number a little bit. He was really off. Got sacked 4 or 5 times in the first half, threw for like 35 yards. Hadn't really run the football much. And Marcus Mariota came in 15 of 18, 161 yards, 2 touchdowns, 95.9 QBR and a half, 5 rushes, 56 yards, and a rushing touchdown. Had a couple of big 4th down plays on that last drive. I'm pulling up that last drive. That last drive, they had a 4th and 1, and that was where he pulled it on the zone read and ran 33 yards for a first down that kept him alive in the game with 30 seconds to go. I feel good about Marcus Mariota, as good as you can feel about a backup quarterback. He's just not Jayden Daniels. This game's not going to be easy. Won't be easy. I watched a lot of the Raiders-Chargers game yesterday after the show, and I've got a lot of notes in my Washington keys to a win over the Raiders. And I am going to certainly approach this right now, unless otherwise, if we don't get news otherwise, as if Marcus Mariota is the starting quarterback. But again, keep it here during this show. Things change, and certainly if Jayden's out there practicing, there's a chance if Jayden's out there practicing. We'll see. I would assume that if he's out there practicing, he's got some sort of brace that he's wearing on that knee. What I really am very curious about is if Jayden doesn't play on Sunday, and my strong hunch is that he's not going to, what I'd really like to find out, and I don't know that anybody's going to find this out because they are so good out there now. They are so buttoned up for the most part, is just what is the knee injury from them, not from reporting, We've heard sprained knee. Sprained knee can mean a lot of different things. There are lots of different grades of sprains. There are sprains that include the PCL, the MCL, etc. Is it possible that Jaden might miss 2 games? I don't know that. I don't know that at all. I think this week and the way Washington's handled it has made a ton of sense if they know he's not going to play. They have made the Raiders prepare for 2 quarterbacks. There was this comment on Wednesday. I saw Nikki Jhabvala tweet this out. She tweeted out what Pete Carroll said the other day. Pete Carroll said, quote, "We'll have to prepare for him," meaning Jaden Daniels, playing, and the bet is that he will. They may not practice him until later in the week, but we're going to count him going. We have a lot of background about Marcus on the staff and all that, so we know what his capabilities are, we think. So we're playing for both guys, but primarily for Jaden. So if Jaden doesn't go, and the strong lean here is that he won't, they made the Raiders prepare for 2 quarterbacks. Now, you can say, is it that much of a difference? Well, there is a difference in the actual player in terms of their ability. The style of offense, there's not a big change in preparation. That's true. That is true. My keys to a win over the Raiders on Sunday coming up. I've got smell test picks on the show today. 1-0 to start the week. Gave out the Dolphins on the show yesterday, plus the points. Really good football game last night. Actually, a very entertaining football game. I thought, Miami took the opening kickoff, drove it down the field, scored. Buffalo answered twice. Man, they are so good offensively. Miami's not very good, and they're banged up on defense. James Cook is becoming... Is he among the elite backs in the league? Is it fair to say that James Cook's now in that conversation with Barkley, with Bijan, with Derrick Henry, with Gibbs? Is he in that class, or is he just below that elite level of running back class? Because he's damn good. I mean, last year in 2024, and it got him a big contract. Remember, he held out. He had, what did he rush for? He rushed for just over 1,000 yards in 16 games. And he also had, receptions totaling 250 yards and 2 touchdowns. Not a Saquon Barkley year last year, but he did average 5 yards a carry last year. Cook's really good. He's actually in some ways better than his brother. And Dalvin was a good back. Buffalo's really good. Entertaining game last night, 31-21. Buffalo held on. Tua threw an interception late. Man, Tua had a decent game managing the game, but how about 34 pass attempts, 22 completions for just 146 yards, 4.3 yards per completion. But he managed the game very well until the end when he threw a back-breaking pick as they were driving for what could have been a tying score and maybe an overtime forcing score. But Buffalo's 3-0, Miami's 0-3. We'll see what happens with Mike McDaniel. There's definitely a lot of, literally down in that area, sharks circling Mike McDaniel's boat. And I don't know what ownership will do there. McDaniel was boy wonder just 2 years ago when they were putting up 70 on Denver and 50s and 40s on just about everybody. But they can't stop anybody, and they got O-line issues. They got a lot of team speed still. I was thinking about this with the Dolphins. Now, I don't think this will happen, but what if they become massive sellers at the trade deadline? And they've got some receivers in Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, available, if they end up making those guys available. Now, Tyreek Hill, once again, dealing with domestic abuse allegations. The league's looking into that, so it may be a moot point. And maybe because of that, it's a moot point anyway with our organization. But, as this season goes on, if Washington's floundering at wide receiver because Noah Brown can't stay healthy, you wonder whether or not they would make some sort of move at that position at the trade deadline. Last year, it was corner with Lattimore. I mean, we're still several games and a month and a half away from that conversation. 6 weeks away, 7 weeks away, something like that. But be interesting to see the players that might be available at the trade deadline. We've already seen they will err because of the belief that they have the opportunity to win something big. They'll err on the side of being overly aggressive. 8 draft picks for 3 players, between last year's trade deadline and the end of the free agency period with Deebo Samuel, Laramie Tunsil, and, of course, Marshawn Lattimore. Smell test picks later on in the show. I've got several of them. Not a great college football Saturday board, although I think there, are 2 really interesting games. Auburn and Oklahoma. Oklahoma's former quarterback quarterbacking Auburn, and then you get John Mateer. This kid is really good. He's second right now in the Heisman race, odds-wise, behind Carson Beck. That game's a 3:30 kick. Then tomorrow night, you get Florida at Miami. Florida is one hellacious defensive football team. Their quarterback absolutely destroyed them last week. I gave Florida out last night. It was one of my last week, one of my losses. For those of you that have no idea, that was one of those where, are you kidding me? They didn't cover in the game. I mean, LSU had 10 first downs in the game, scored 20 points. Florida had 5 picks by their quarterback. Their quarterback, DJ Lagway, threw 5 interceptions. Some of them were just horrific. And still, they were in the game late, catching 7. They ended up losing by 10. Well, they are a 9.5-point favorite. They were a 7-point favorite. Massive sharp money on Miami last night that came in. I mean, big sharp money on the Canes. But that game is interesting tomorrow night as well. Illinois and Indiana in the Big Ten. Are either one of those 2 teams for real? Man, I'll tell you what, Cignetti, I'd love to see him get beat a lot. He's an insufferable. The former JMU coach, who's now the coach at Indiana, they got him to the playoff. Man, he is a bit much. But Brett Bielema can be a bit much as well. Although there hasn't been a lot of chirping between the 2, we thought there would be heading into that game. That's an interesting game tomorrow night. And is USC for real? They're 19-point favorites at home in the Coliseum against Michigan State, who's 3-0. This might be a good SC team. Maryland tomorrow, right here on your home for Maryland football at 12 noon, 11 a.m. Pre-game, you'll hear Johnny Holiday and Steve Suter on the call. The Terps go to Wisconsin for their first road game of the year, their first Big Ten game of the year. Wisconsin's a 10-point favorite in this game, and the Badgers have struggled here early in the season. They got absolutely run in Tuscaloosa last week, although defensively they appear to be a decent team. Wisconsin's had issues, man, with quarterback in particular in recent years. And then Sunday, and we'll go through the NFL card a little bit later on in the show, but the 1 o'clock window has Rams-Eagles. That's a big-time game. Texans-Jags is a big game in the AFC South. And then in the late afternoon, Cowboys-Bears is the featured game on Fox. But really, the other Fox game features 2 2-0 teams, the Cardinals and the Niners, with probably Mac Jones starting for San Francisco again. Sunday night, Chiefs at Giants. I think there's an assumption that the Chiefs will win that game and get back on track. Not so fast. Giants might be a wise play. And then the Monday night game is spectacular. Lions and Ravens. Yeah, that should be a really good game from M&T Bank. So a lot of football on the show for sure. I will have my keys to a Washington win over the Raiders. Again, I'm going to go with the assumption that it's Mariota Sunday. I think it will be. I have a strong hunch that it will be Marcus Mariota. But we'll know for sure maybe as early as 11 a.m. We'll be following that story. Ben will join us at 11:30. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980, the team980.com. We're free and live on the Odyssey app.
Back to the eye discipline comments that you mentioned, because Dan also mentioned that a little bit. I think generally I understand the concept, but for you, what was the specific struggle? I get what eye discipline means, but what for you was not working in that regard? That multiple people have now brought that up.
Ask the question again, please.
Basically, for you, what is the struggling with eye discipline? What does that actually look like for you when you're watching the tape or watching the game?
All right, you understand when the call is called. Okay, where are my keys? All right, what am I looking at? If I'm in man coverage, all right, make sure my eyes are on my man. If I'm in a combination where, all right, there's a possibility of a swap, the three guys that are in that combination, we're all keying the same thing. Okay. We go through our fast motion rules, understanding who's taking one out, who's taking two out, who's taking three out when they get into a loaded concept. So it's not a simplistic answer because the different calls bring different, keys and reads, but it's nothing that we weren't prepared for. We splashed Green Bay plays in. Now, we didn't tell the players that, but all during camp because it was a Thursday night game. There was only going to be one game prior. So the concepts weren't concepts that we didn't think they were doing. We just didn't play it well, at the wrong time.
Do you think last year there was an issue in that department, or was it just something that you?
I'm not worried about last year, just to be honest with you.
I just mean from a development standpoint.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but I'm not worried about last year. I'm not trying to, we didn't play well enough to win the Green Bay game. Okay, the reason we didn't play well enough, we didn't have great eye discipline. I'm trying to answer the question for you.
Joe Witt Jr. I watched both the Kingsbury and the Joe Witt Jr. press conferences after the show. Not that there isn't justification for being testy and being a little bit short. And he actually apologized because he started to talk about something from last year in a later answer and then said, my fault, I shouldn't have snapped at you because I just talked about last year. But there's pressure on Joe Witt Jr. I don't think there's any doubt about that. There was pressure coming into the season. They had a really good week 1, and they had a not so good week 2. Other than up front, they did a decent job against the run in the Packer game. Javon Kinlaw has been outstanding the first 2 games. But defensively, 17 games this year, at the end of it, we're gonna look at it, and if it was not a meaningful improvement from 2024, there's going to be a lot of talk about Joe Witt Jr. We had it, I'm not interjecting this as a topic in week 2 because they weren't very good against the Packers. This is something we all talked about during the offseason. We'll see what happens. I've had many of you reach out to say, why doesn't Dan Quinn take back play calling? I don't know that that's the issue. I don't know that the issue is the coordinator, the scheme, the play calling. I don't. I do think that looking at this team and the personnel they have on defense, now they lost Dietrich Wise, obviously. I think their personnel is at least slightly better than it was last year. So the expectation should be a little bit higher. But with that said, the teams they're playing, the quarterbacks they're playing, the receivers, the running backs they're playing are also different than the ones they faced last year. All right. Washington beats the Raiders on Sundays. My keys to the game. I watched basically the entire Chargers-Raiders game from Monday night. Watched it, the broadcast, watched a lot of the All-22 because when we get these AFC teams that we don't see, and it's early in the season, we haven't seen a lot of the Giants, Eagles, and Cowboys either. But it's, a lot of new stuff. The Raiders hired Pete Carroll in the offseason, hired Chip Kelly to be the offensive coordinator, went out and got Geno Smith. That's an organization that thought about this season as a season in which, hey, we can contend. We can play for something. We can have a winning season. They're in a tough division for that. With the Chargers, obviously, the Chiefs and the Broncos, there were high expectations for Denver this year. But Pete Carroll, as an older coach, maybe that was part of it. If you were going to go for a rebuild, you maybe hire somebody younger. They brought Pete Carroll in, and they're all in a little bit on not the Super Bowl, not a division title, but on having a winning season and contending for a playoff spot. They're off to a 1-1 start. They beat the Patriots in the opener 20-13. That was on the road. And then the home game on Monday night, they lost to the Chargers 20-9. A big part of that loss was Geno Smith throwing 3 picks in the game. He's thrown 4 in the first 2 games. He leads the league with 4 interceptions in 2 games. All right. I'll just say one thing about the Raiders in general. I think that this has a chance offensively, even with Mariota at quarterback, to be a big day through the air. They don't cover well. They seem disorganized defensively. And Graham's been a good defensive coordinator. Now, their pass rush with Max Crosby can be a problem. So my number one key, Washington beats the Raiders if they protect the quarterback. I think that quarterback will be Marcus Mariota on Sunday. You have to account for Max Crosby, but I think if they can protect the quarterback, which they could not do against Green Bay, and by the way, part of that protecting the quarterback means to run the football a little bit. But I think there's some big chunk opportunities, both, through the air yard route and also with yards after catch against this Raiders secondary. Will Washington protect with a different offensive line Sunday? I'm not discounting the potential, not probability, but the potential that Josh Connerly Jr. could take a seat for Andrew Wiley, or maybe Allegretti takes a seat for Wiley. So at least they've got a player that because Allegretti hasn't played well either. I think, as I mentioned yesterday, there's a chance they could go with 6 offensive linemen, not because they've got an issue with protecting, but because John Bates isn't going to play more likely than not. And that 6th offensive lineman could be a guy like Trent Scott. I saw Pete Haley, who's now up in Connecticut. Pete, of course, used to be in town. I saw him tweet out, I'd love the odds on a Trent Scott touchdown catch. Remember, he had that touchdown against the Bengals. So don't be surprised if you get a 6th O-lineman who's essentially replacing John Bates, and they can go 12 personnel with that, and they can throw out of that, and that can be part protection as well. Trent Scott would be, if he lined up, would be ineligible. Eligible, not ineligible. Did I say ineligible? He would be ineligible. But I could definitely see on Sunday, after watching the Raiders defensively, if they can handle Max Crosby, not easy. You cannot let Josh Connerly Jr. go solo on Max Crosby. That would be negligence at the highest level after what we saw last week. Max Crosby may have the highest motor of any player in the league. Quinn said that the other day. It's so true. Every single time you watch Max Crosby, it is just a motor like it never stops. The energy level he plays with, you have to account for Max Crosby because he can wreck a game. And this is one of those games which, even with Mariota, I think they can win the game, but not if they take big sacks that end drives, not if they turn the ball over because of pressure. I would imagine that Max Crosby is going to be handled by more than Josh Connerly Jr. or by a replacement for Josh Connerly Jr. But I think if they can protect their passer, again, I think it will be Mariota. We'll see. Things may have changed here, and we'll find out, I think, within the hour. I think they can throw the football. I think this could be a big day for Ertz. I think it could be a big day for Deebo Samuel. I think it could be a big day for Terry in this game. It'll be interesting if Noah Brown doesn't go. Is it Chris Moore? Is it McCaffrey? I think it'll be Moore. He's played on the outside. They're going to miss Noah Brown. The players that they lost, Bates, Brown, Wise, and Eckler, each one stings because there aren't obvious replacements for any of them. Number one key to beating Vegas on Sunday is to protect the quarterback, because I do think that their best way to move the football, and I'm not advocating, calling 50 pass plays to just 12 running back runs. I want them to be able to run the ball. That's part of the protection of their quarterback, is to run the football and be able to maybe play action off of running the football. But the protection of the quarterback on Sunday is crucial, because if the quarterback, whether it is 1st and 10 play action or 3rd and 9 drop back, if you can protect the quarterback, I think this will be a different game for the receivers and the tight ends and maybe the backs as well in terms of their ability to be open, much more so than they were against Green Bay. Number 2, have to take advantage of what should be an absolute advantage Washington has defensively up front against the Raiders' offensive line. The Raiders do not have a good offensive line. Plus, one of their players, their starting right guard, Powers Johnson is his name. He could be out, and it's not a good O-line to begin with. To me, after watching what I watched in the opener against the Giants, I know it was the opener, but Kinlaw and Payne, Armstrong, this is a better defensive front than the one we had last year. Now, it did a decent job against the run, although Jacobs did get yards when he needed to get yards. I think the talk, and I don't know, I had Steve Suter do the film breakdown. Steve talked about it was a pretty good job against the run. I still think Jacobs, when they needed him to get yards, got yards, but it wasn't a terrible night. It was an average to slightly higher average night against the run. They got torched through the air in that game. But if the mismatch against the Raiders offensive line is what I think it is, and Washington comes out with the kind of energy level and the kind of dominance they had against the Giants offensive line, I think that that's a huge advantage for Washington. I think this could be a defensive-led win. I think the Raiders could have a difficult time running the football. Did you know, I saw this stat, that Ashton Genty is averaging 0.2 yards before he gets contacted. That means there is immediate penetration, and he is getting hit in the backfield. He has actually done a phenomenal job of making people miss or breaking tackles just to get back to the line of scrimmage at times. Raiders offensive line is not good. And I'll tell you what, when you, in the Chip Kelly offense, you need some time for your quarterback. And Geno can rip it. Make no mistake, Geno can rip it. He can make every throw. He's also a risk taker. I've always liked Geno Smith. And they have speed defensively. The 4th round pick, Thornton, number 10, watching him and then going back, he's a 4-3, 4-4 guy. They got Jacoby Myers, who's definitely more of a possession underneath guy. They've got some speed. So D-line, this is their game Sunday against the Raiders O-line. Stop the run, but then get after Geno and don't give him time, because if he has time, they've got burners. They've got big play ability. So I look at this game and I'm like, if we can protect the quarterback, whether it's in non-passing situations, play action, or it's in drop-back situations, obvious passing downs, there are going to be people open. And if the quarterback, if it's Jaden, I'd feel super comfortable. But I feel good about Mariota hitting wide open Ertz, hitting, Terry with separation this week. I see separation. I see players open against the Raiders secondary, different than the Packers secondary. And then flip side, if the D-line can, dominate what should be a banged up and not very good O-line, then the Raiders are going to have a difficult time. This is a game in which Washington can win in the trenches. And I didn't think that they did that last Thursday night. They certainly did not do that on offense against the Packers. What else did I have here? In addition to, owning that line of scrimmage, you've got to tackle Genty. Genty hasn't gotten off yet, but he's totally capable of it. And he is a guy that can make people miss and can break tackles. He can get 3 when there's nothing. He can get back to the line of scrimmage when there's -2. He can get 10 when there's 4. So you've got to tackle well in this game against Ashton Genty. Yeah, I mean, I like the advantage Washington has up front on defense. I think that is a key to the game to take advantage of that. Because if not, I could see the Raiders getting some big plays. You give Geno time; they've got guys that can get open and can get open deep. Back to Washington's offense. You really have to be more balanced, especially if it's Mariota. But even if it were Jaden Sunday, let's be balanced. Let's get Krosky Merritt into the game. I think the running back situation plays out this way. And I'll ask Ben about this in an hour. I think it's Krosky Merritt to start. I think he's in the huddle on 1st and 10. I think that Chris Rodriguez gets short yardage opportunities, but I think he'll also get a series or two, depending on the context of the game and how many series they have. I think he'll get a 1st and 10, a 2nd and 4, 2nd and 5 opportunity in a series in for Krosky Merritt. But I think Krosky Merritt, Bill, will be the starter. And then I expect to see Jeremy McNichols. I know how much they like him. I know how confident they are in him as a pass protector, he's the Eckler third down, back. He's not the early down Eckler replacement. But he is against he's not the early down replacement, but he is the third down replacement. Look, you cannot protect the quarterback consistently if you're going to call 50 pass plays and just hand the ball off 12 times. Quinn pointed that out. Washington's got to be more balanced. I am interested to see what they do, up front. Can they go 12 personnel, keep Raiders in their, base, which is a 4-3, and can they throw, off that and get people open? I think they will be able to do that. What else did I have here? Turnovers are going to be key in this game. This is the way you lose Sunday, is you end up with 2 picks. You end up with a high throw to a wide open guy, over the middle, Ertz, and it gets picked off by Jeremy Chin, maybe. Yes, he plays for the Raiders. You cough one up, on a backside hit by Crosby. They haven't turned it over in 2 games. They also haven't gotten takeaways. If you get 2 takeaways, if you're +2, I think this is a double-digit win. If you're even, I think it's a close game. If you're -2, I think it's problematic. I think they could lose the game. You could say that about almost every NFL game, but the Raiders are going to need, coming in tired maybe, they're going to need a couple of plays. You can't give it to them. They've got a good punter, and Carlson's a very good kicker. So if it comes down to that, they've got, 2 good kickers. We've got good kick coverage. And I thought Jalen Lane looked good on punt returns last week. I did. What else do I have here? Yeah. To me, it is protect the quarterback, and you can have a big day, I think, throwing the football against their secondary. Be disruptive up front on defense, because I think you can stop the run, and I think you can get after Geno Smith. And I think if you don't get after Geno Smith, they've got guys that can make plays. They've got team speed at wide receiver. Oh, and they've got Brock Bowers. Okay, they've got arguably the best tight end in football. All right, 112 catches as a rookie last year. He's not 100%, but he played on Monday night. But if you give him time between their receivers and Brock Bowers, Geno can pick you apart. He's capable of that. But with pressure, he'll put him up for grabs, and you got to make him pay. And then I do think that turnover margin in this game, I mean, you can say that about almost any game, but I think in this game, you cannot give the Raiders life by giving them short fields in this game. I see a Washington win with either quarterback, but I think it'll be much closer with Mariota. Our predictions later on in the show. All right. Ben's coming up at 11:30. We will get to an NFL preview later on in the show, but you're going to hear from Jay Gruden next. Jay jumped on my podcast, which will air later on today, but I carved out about 10 minutes of Jay talking about Jaden and how to protect him. and also just the overall thought about how to replace Bates and what to do with Connerly Jr. You'll hear the former head coach, Jay Gruden, next when we return. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the team980.com.
All right, here's what's happening. Happy Friday. It has been a quiet day around the world of DC sports so far, so let's hear what's happening beyond. Thursday Night Football last night, the Bills, they took on the Miami Dolphins. A close game for the most part, and then the Bills closed it out off a Tua Tagovailoa interception late in the fourth quarter on a drive to try and tie the game. The Dolphins kept it close, or at least as close as they could with a banged-up defense. Buffalo wins 31-21. And to baseball, Clayton Kershaw has announced his intention to retire from baseball at the end of this season, closing the book on a career that is spanning nearly 2 decades. The 3-time Cy Young winner says he's at peace with the decision and says that it is the, quote, the right time, end quote. Tonight, the Nats, they shift their focus to a weekend series versus the New York Mets. Live from the Big Apple, Andrew Alvarez in line to start against Brandon Sproat. First pitch at 7:10. Nats on deck with Charlie and Dave at 6:40. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type in the Team 980, hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live every day from 10 to 1. You can catch Denton's office throughout all football season. Don't forget to hit the like button whenever you do decide to join us, and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports. And that is what's trending.
Jay Gruden comes on my podcast every week on Fridays. Sometimes we record it early in the morning, and when we do, I want to play some of it here on the radio show. So I carved out 10 minutes of my conversation about an hour and a half ago with Jay, and talking exclusively really about the offense heading into the game against the Raiders. Jaden has been the most hit quarterback during his 22 NFL game career. Would that bother you, A? And B, if it did, how would you go about minimizing the times he gets hit?
Man, it's so hard, Kevin, because he's so good with the ball in his hands, but he also is the franchise, and you got to protect him. So there is a fine line between using his strengths and getting him the ball outside on the perimeter and protecting him. So that's the toughest dilemma I think Coach Quinn and Coach Kingsbury have right now, is trying to limit the hits but utilize his strengths, which is his athleticism. So I don't know the answer to that, to be honest with you. I think Jaden's got to do a good job of avoiding the hits, but I think the majority of the hits that you got to really make sure he doesn't hit her in the pocket. You got to make sure he's protected. Your line's got to play better in known passing situations. And I think when he's outside running, I think he's fine. I think it's just in the pocket. Some of the hits that he takes is concerning to me. Their offensive line's got to play better.
Would you make any changes anywhere before the Raiders game, personnel-wise?
I'd seriously take a look at the right tackle position, really, and think about letting that guy, what's his name?
Josh Connerly Jr.
Josh Connerly. I'd let him rest. I think he's a developmental project. I think he's got a good frame. He's got good feet and all that stuff. I don't know if he's quite ready for the type of players he's going against right now. I think he needs a little bit more time in the cooker. He's going to be a good player eventually, but not right now. I'd go back to the way it was last year at the right tackle position and go from there, because I think they had they played pretty good last year as a front offensive line wise. They've made so many changes, moving Coleman to left guard and moving Wiley to right guard.
Right.
They're not selling right now, in my opinion.
So you would move Wiley in there at right tackle?
I would definitely move Wiley to right tackle based on what I've seen in the first two games. These guys are around him every day in practice. Maybe he's getting better and better, but I just think I'd much rather have Wiley right now at right tackle, just because of his experience and the way he played last year. I thought he played decent. It's not like he's a Pro Bowler or anything like that, but he's a solid, good right tackle.
What's the solution to no John Bates if he doesn't go, and it doesn't look like he will on Sunday, and they don't appear to have a blocking tight end as an option, as a replacement?
That's a huge point. The years before with Coach Rivera, they never had a blocking tight end either. It killed their running game. You got to have a guy in there that can block. I think maybe you put Wiley at right tackle and let Connerly be the big tight end. Let's try that, or something like that. Maybe bring in a big guy like Detroit does, Chicago does a little bit from time to time. But you got to have a point of attack tight end, in my opinion. And maybe Snot can come in there and do some things, scrape it on the backside, cut people off, and all that. But it's a big hit for the running game. Now you got to spread people out, try to run inside zone, or get on the perimeter with some toss cracks. Some of that thing. There's some things you can do, but not having a good blocking tight end hurts you, especially in the third and short and known running situations if you have a 4-minute drill and things like that.
Did you say Trent Scott?
Trent Scott? Yeah. What about him?
No, you said you can get somebody in there and I thought you said Trent Scott, because he played when they had a couple of games last year, a couple of plays with 6 offensive linemen, and Trent Scott was that guy.
Yeah, he'd be a good option too. I put Wiley back at right tackle. You put Connerly as a big tight end.
Oh, I see. Yep.
One of the other. Keep Connerly at right tackle and bring Trent Scott in. Yeah, that's another good option. So I think that, have 6 or 7 plays. You can do some good play actions like that, some max protection play action passes, and it helps with the running game as well.
This conversation just reminds me of when, we've had these conversations before about Ryan Grant. You said Deshaun Jackson wouldn't block, Jordan Reed couldn't block. I had to play Ryan Grant if we were going to run the football. That right?
Exactly. Yeah. I remember, I don't know if I told this story or not, but we had a running play where we motioned the flanker in and he had to block first, the safety if he was down in the box, and I had Deshaun do it. And he looked at me after the play and walked through. He goes, "Hey, Drew, that's really not in our game plan, is it?" I go, "No, Deshaun, I'll put Ryan Grant in there for that."
Yeah, I think you have. By the way, do you know what Deshaun Jackson's doing right now?
Yeah, he's head coach of Delaware. I've been following him. I think they've won a couple games. He's doing pretty good.
I talked about this yesterday. They're 2-1. Actually texted back and forth with Clinton Portis last week. He's the running backs coach, and he sent me a note. They're the number 1 rush offense in football. In 1AA. Number one rush offense after 3 games in that level. They're in that MEAC with Howard and some of those other schools.
I wonder if Clinton's running some Joe Gibbs counters and powers and all that stuff.
I
bet that'd be sweet.
I bet he is. Did you think that Deshaun Jackson would ever be a guy that could become a head coach?
He would be the last guy that I've ever coached, I would say, be a head coach. Just because, I don't think he'd put the time in or be that interested. But he was a very smart player. He tried to come in with his hood on and act like he's not paying attention. But he was one of the smartest guys I had. He went to Cal, for God's sakes. He tried to act like a thug and all that stuff, but he went to Cal. And he's a smart kid, So, yeah, I just didn't think he'd want to be a coach, put the time in.
Yeah. So is there anything I can tell you from a gambling perspective, there is historically, but from a coach standpoint, did you ever, put time into this West Coast team traveling east, playing a 1:00 kick? In this case, it's with the Raiders on short rest, Washington on a mini bye after playing last Thursday night. How much did that rest advantage or time zone advantage play into any sort of preparation?
I don't know if that plays a factor or not. I'm sure maybe a little bit. Maybe the legs get a little weary. To me, it's more about the heat. Some of these West Coast teams coming, to Florida to play in the heat. That's where the most effect was. But, it should be a nice day in Washington up there. It should be fine. I don't think it's a big issue, really, because I think going east to west and then coming back east is more of a difficult situation to me. I don't think the West Coast coming here is a big deal because those guys usually up in the morning anyway, and they're practicing by 10 o'clock, their time anyway. So I don't think it's got a big factor. Historically,
just so you know, from a betting standpoint, West Coast teams playing early 1:00 East Coast games, you take the home team, and it's worked out. It's worked out more often with respect to the number, not wins and losses, with respect to the point spread. Chip Kelly is the offensive coordinator for Pete Carroll. What have you thought of Chip Kelly over the years?
I think Chip does a good job. He's obviously a bright guy, but I think in Philadelphia struggled a little bit offensively. They have some good players, and they struggled against their last game. They only scored 6 points. Had a couple bad calls against the PIs that weren't called, but I don't know. I think the jury's out. So I don't want to speak poorly about a coach or anything like that, but I've not been very overly impressed with his offenses.
What about Pete Carroll? You went head to head with him a few times over the years.
Oh, Pete's a good. He's a good coach, man. He doesn't do anything offense, defense, or special teams. He's a very good motivator. He's very upbeat all the time. He's got great positive energy, which you need in pro football. He's the same every day. Positive, high energy guy, hand clapping son of a gun, and he gets a lot out of his players. But as far as the X's and O's guys, I don't think he really puts a lot into that. I think he's more into the get people motivated, that type of thing, kind of like a Mike Tomlin, and those guys could be very successful if they hire good people around them.
Sunday is not a code red game, as we've come to label them over the years when it's appropriate. But you've got it trademarked, so we certainly give you your credit for that. But it's a big game. They go to Atlanta and to LA to face the Chargers. Actually, 4 out of their next 5 are on the road after Sunday. Do you view it as kind of a big early season game for Washington?
I do. I think all home games are huge. I think you got to take advantage of your home turf. You really do, because when you go on the road, it's difficult. We all know that. You mentioned the travel that they're going to have to face and the teams that they're going to have to play. So you're playing a team that just scored 6 points, new coaching staff. You got to take advantage of it. You got to win your home games. Because you look back at the season and you're going to be a game out of the wild card, or you're going to win the wild card by a game, or win your division by a game. So these all add up. And this is the big one, man. They got to get this win to get to 2-1, because you mentioned the road ahead is going to be tough. So they got to seal this.
Jay Gruden had a lot more. You can listen to it later on when my podcast is out. All right. 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. Label the game on Sunday. Code red is what Jay called the Tampa Bay game back in 2015. This is not that, although I know some of you believe it is close to it. Give me the label for this game on a scale of, 0 to 5. 0 is not very significant one way or the other. 5 is 5 alarm code red, have to win game. Give me where you are and why at 301-230-0980. Again, keep it here. We're going to have some news shortly as they take the field for practice. And then Ben will jump on with us at 11:30. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the team980.com. Where is your meter right now? We'll call it the panic meter. 0 to 5. 0, no concern about this game. And I'm not talking about winning or losing. That it's not, a massive game. It's not anywhere near must-win game. Too early in this season. You're not concerned at all, win or lose. Or 5, it's a 5-alarm fire because this is a must-win. Can't lose to the Raiders. 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. We're keeping our eye on practice and whether or not Jaden takes the field for practice. Again, my hunch is probably not, but we will know for sure coming up here shortly. Ben Standig will join us at 11:30. Quinn will talk sometime in the 12 o'clock hour, and we'll carry that live. So for me, Max, I'm at a 3 on this game. It's week 3, and more times than not, I would be, unless they were 0-2, I would be, look, there is so much football to be played, and we have no idea how this team will evolve. And the starting quarterback, perhaps, and I would guess, isn't going to play on Sunday. But I'm at a 3 because the bottom line is, whether Jaden's in the game or not, 1-2 puts them in a situation where the next 2 games, they'd have to win one of them. They'd really, really desperately need one of those games, because a 1-4 start in the NFC, by the way, the AFC right now, the NFC is 5-1 head up with the AFC. Okay. There was one win, Jacksonville's win over Carolina in week 1. The NFC has been really good, and there's a chance it's going to continue to be good. Remember, last year, 10-7 did not get Seattle in. 11-6 was the last team in. The Packers, they were the 7 seed. Washington was the 6 seed at 12-5, and Minnesota was the 5 seed at 14-3. If you lose on Sunday and you're staring 1-4 as a possibility, because you could be an underdog in the next 2 games, although the look-ahead line for the Atlanta game, Washington is a 1.5 point favorite, but that could change, obviously, if they were to lose on Sunday. But, now 9-8, fighting to get back to a winning record, probably wouldn't be good enough. It just wouldn't be. There's a lot of football to go. I get it. Injuries will play a major part in everybody's season, but I kind of feel like on the panic meter, this isn't a 5. They're going to play the season. If the other 14 games, if they lose, they're going to have a chance to get back into it, especially if Jaden's not playing on Sunday. And I wouldn't even put it, close to a 5 at a 4, but it's also not a 0. I got it at a 3. I think this is a big game. They need this one. It's not over if they don't get it, but they should be playing with a level of urgency and a level of desperation of, the team that needs it more. Often in this league, because, the rosters are so close, everything's so close in this league. It's why it's week to week. And sometimes the team that's got more to play for in that given week, and I think Washington's got a lot to play for here. This is not an expected opportunity for the Raiders to take advantage of on a short week, playing a team with, a bye week, rest period. This is, tough going west to east, 1:00 kick. Washington needs to get this game. I've got it at a 3. I think this, I would not want to be sitting here on Monday morning having to talk everybody off the ledge at 1-2 heading to Atlanta, and the Falcons might be 2-1. And then, having a game against the Chargers a few weeks later, who very easily could be at that point 4-0. They've got the Broncos at home, and they got the Giants on the road in week 4. So they could be a 4-0 football team. So I got it at a 3. My panic meter is, almost dead center at a 3. What about you, Max?
So my panic meter is a little bit higher than yours. I'm putting it at a 4, just because, like you said, when you look ahead at this schedule, you go to the Falcons, who might have a really, really stout defense. And then the Chargers, like you said, 4-0. Justin Herbert does not show any signs of slowing down yet. It's paramount that you come away from this one with a win. But I'm going to believe in the Marcus Mariota revenge game. But yeah, got to win on Sunday. My panic meter, 4.
Ben Standing, by the way, just a few seconds ago, tweeted out Jaden Daniels is not here for the start of practice. Players are still coming out, but the quarterbacks are on the field. As I said from the beginning of the show, very strong hunch, strong lean that Marcus Mariota is going to be the starting quarterback on Sunday and Jaden will be out. And I think within the hour, we may know for sure. Because if he doesn't take the practice field, Quinn essentially told Nicky Jhabvala 2 days ago that if he doesn't practice this week, he's not playing. And I think that they would rule him out today. There could be a competitive advantage to keep it up in the air, but he's already given you the big tell, which is he's got to practice. All right, 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. Where's your panic meter right now? Zero concern about this game, win or lose. It's still too early in the season. Good chance that Jaden isn't going to play in the game. Or is it a 5? Is this a must-win? Is this a code red must-win game? Max is at a 4. I'm at a 3. I'm at a 3 because, the NFL, we see it far too much, often every year. You count teams out. You can't do it this early in the season. And if he doesn't play, I do think there is a chance they could lose this game if he doesn't play. But, man, it would put them in a bind early in the season at 1-2. Not only that, the context of it would be if they do lose on Sunday, more likely than not, they didn't play well, against that team. I guess it's, there's a chance that it's a high quality, high level game and both teams play exceptionally well and the Raiders eke out, a 27-26 win. And we feel a little bit better about certain things, but more likely than not, if they lose, it would be a second consecutive game of not feeling good about the result or what we saw on the field. And yeah, heading to Atlanta, they're much better defensively than they've been. They can really run the football. And then the Chargers, I'll tell you one thing, the Falcons and the Chargers, those 2 road games, you'd have to get one of them. Because 1-4 in the NFC this year, of course you could recover from it, absolutely could, but it would be a big hill to climb. Jalen, go ahead. Where are you on the panic meter as far as Sunday's game goes?
Good morning, Kevin.
What's up, Jalen?
So I'm at a 4 right now, and I just feel like last week was the worst performance that we've seen in quite a while. I know that's, a little bit something different that we're not, usually accustomed to seeing. But I just want the team to come out with a sense of urgency. We're at home, got extra time to prepare for the opponent. And not to mention, they're coming all the way from the West Coast on a short week. And this opponent, this should be somebody that we should beat, considering like the talent level that we have on our roster. And
right.
I want to see a Carolina-type performance, like the game that we had against Carolina last year. I think that's the type of game that I want to see us play. I want to see us come out strong on both sides of the ball, just playing with a sense of purpose and to just try to get our confidence back, especially if we're looked upon throughout the league as a contending team to get back to the championship game and to even get to the Super Bowl. This is a game that we have to win, and there's no excuses for why we can't and why we shouldn't.
Remember this about that Carolina game. Carolina had, first of all, an injury to Andy Dalton, or Bryce Young, and Andy Dalton came into the game. They had the pick 6 with Fowler Jr. Was it Fowler Jr. that had the pick 6?
Yes.
Or was it Luvu?
Oh, it was Dante.
It was Dante. And then on the drive, when they had the ball for the first time, Jaden had the 50-yard run that he got hurt on, that he injured his ribs on, and they kicked the field goal. They had a 10-0 lead in that game when Marcus Mariota came in. And it was a not very good Carolina team. Look, the Raiders may be off as well because of the setup for this, the net rest advantage, the west to east, all that. They may stink too. And if they do on Sunday, you're damn right. They got to take advantage of it, and they got to take care of it like they did the Carolina game. Although, let me just tell you right now, I'll take anything. I'll take 20-19. Get to 2-1. Let's get healthy. In some areas, they're not going to get healthy. G from the shop, where are you?
I think, honestly, we should have did this after this game with the numbers ranking.
We can do it again.
Because I feel like this game is a measuring stick game. Like this where it's only game 3, but this where where your team at. with or without Jaden. You know what I'm saying? Because, like you said, they got to come over here to the East. They just played a team that came from overseas and beat the brakes off of them. They got a new staff that's they really trying to get to know each other and get some rhythm themselves. We're the better team. We at home on a long week of preparation. This is the type of team that we should beat. That's why I say it's a measuring stick game, and to let us know how good our team and our coaches is coming off an L like we did the other day, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think the caveat to that, G, is if Mariota, and I think he will be, I think there's a really strong possibility he will be, if he's the starter and we don't have our best player on the field, then, you know, how do you measure that?
With Mariota, that's why I liked it when we got him. We ain't got to switch up our game plan too much. One thing we do got to do is have a better game plan than we prepared last week because we look unprepared as coaches. The receivers wasn't getting open. People talking about Jaden was holding on to the football too long. People need to get open. Our defenses need to know what we're doing. And like, I think that long week of preparation, this shows us where we are because we've been so bad as a team for the years. Like, this will show us is the change really true? Are we believe like this is the game we should look good? We at home, long week? No, this what's funnier to me seeing is you having Jay Gruden on talk about other coaches, man. That's hilarious. He called Pete Carroll a hand clapping son of a gun that motivates. Yeah, hey, Jay Gruden. You do got to motivate your players when you coach, something that you never did. That's hilarious, man. He said, I'm not going to bash Chip Kelly, but no, I haven't been a fan.
Yeah.
Man,
it's why I love Jay. Jay is a total guy's guy, and he tells you exactly how he feels. Look, he's been in the league forever. His brother's been in the league forever. They know everybody. They know. You know, they got a good sense of it. How about him talking about Deshaun? You know, he's told me that before, that Deshaun was definitely one of the smartest guys that ever played for him. That, you know, it was very much sort of an act that, you know, that he wasn't that and that he wasn't invested and he wasn't smart. But there were just things that Deshaun did not want to do. He did not want to block anybody.
Look, I fell asleep in film study too, but when it came time to perform, I was busting my butt and I was high IQ like Deshaun, you know. So it's a lot that goes into this coaching, man, and especially when you got a resume like Deshaun Jackson and you know how to communicate to the young fellas. Oh no, it's easy to follow.
Yeah, and communication, man. Like, and by the way, I bet you Clinton is I bet you he is a good. I always thought Clinton could be a really good coach.
You said it, man. And tell Jay Gruden what I said, man. He was a horrible communicator.
I'll talk to you. Actually, Jay was a good communicator. He was just much more of what they call in the trade a player's coach, where he'd let a lot of guys slide. Deshaun, you don't have to do what you don't want to do.
No, negative. Because players, coaches, your players. If you're a real players coach, your players respect you. And I didn't.
I think that's wrong. I think his players liked him and respected him, especially as an offensive mind.
They would like to have a beer.
It would have been nice for them to have a defensive coordinator at some point when he was there.
It'd be great to have a beer with, but terrible to be my son's coach.
See ya. Fred in Southeast. Fred, where are you on the panic meter?
Man, hey Kevin, good show. I listen every day.
Thanks, man.
I'm at a zero, man. I'm at a zero, and the reason is because just last week we were all talking about Super Bowl aspirations.
Yeah.
So now a week later we come in and we're talking about the Raiders team. Come on, man, Kevin.
It's the NFL. It's the NFL, Fred. It changes every week, man. 2 weeks ago, I was sitting here picking them to go to the Super Bowl. I haven't given up on that. It's too early to give up on that.
Right, exactly. So, Kevin, so to go a week later and with a backup quarterback in Mariota that they was adamant about bringing back. Now, if you got a backup quarterback that can't beat a struggling Raiders team at home, then, in the words of Dennis Allen, they are who we thought they were. If we can't beat the Raiders,
Yeah,
we're not
well,
a good team. You gotta beat the
they may
Raiders
have to
team
beat the
at
Raiders
home.
without their starting quarterback, without their starting blocking tight end, without their number 2 wide receiver, without their defensive end that they brought in to be a big-time edge-setting run stopper. There's nothing that impacts a game or a season more than your best players' availability or lack thereof. Thanks, Fred. Appreciate it. Let's go to Billy in Chantilly. Where are you on the panic meter? 0, no concern if they lose Sunday. 5, it is a must game. They got to win this game.
Kevin, first off, is there any moment in time where you would suggest as a caller, and I'm a longtime caller, that I would have to always agree with everything you say, or that could potentially be banned, or are we going to keep these airways opinionated and focused on football team?
Yeah, the latter, Billy.
The latter. Okay, good.
Yeah.
For our listeners, the young listeners out there, I would say for this game, Kevin, and I'd like your opinion on this. Crosby is the closest thing you'll ever see, not performance-wise, to Lawrence Taylor effort-wise on the football field. That was what Lawrence Taylor looked like.
That's what right. It just never was anything other than full speed times 2, if that's even possible.
Yeah. What a joy it was, even though he was in our division, to watch Lawrence Taylor.
He's the greatest player of our lifetime, Billy. The best player I've ever watched in our lifetime is LT.
And Crosby's got an effort that way.
Yeah,
I'm at a 6.
He's not as good, but
I'm at a 6. I think after 10 days off,
6 wasn't an option.
5 plus 100%.
Just 5,
plus
Billy. It's really easy. It's 0 to 5. 5. You're in full panic right now. They've got to win this game. It's code red. Why?
It's code red.
Why?
I had them at 17-0 and winning the Super Bowl. You had 10 days off. They're coming west. I don't care if Jaden's in or not. The whole Jaden thing is the future's not as bright as I thought it was. You got to be out there when you're a professional football player, and he's now had the rib injury and now the knee injury. And my whole view of the future of the team is if you can't keep Jaden upright, it's not the same as if he's out there. You got to be healthy and playing. So it's a code red. It's a 5. It's must win. And we better smoke them.
You have major, I don't think I'd call them mood swings, but my God, based on the day, you can be, you just went from, as recently as early in the week, the greatest quarterback that's ever lived, 17-0, even after a loss, you were still predicting 17-0, even though it's not possible, to now you're not sure about Jaden. Have you been diagnosed with anything?
Billy ran away. He's gone.
Billy ran away?
He ran away.
He doesn't run away. I think we got rid of him.
Listen, I didn't hit that button as many times as I wanted to.
DC Clay, go ahead.
Yeah, Kevin, I call it a 5, and right now my hand is on a red button.
Oh,
and the reason is simple. We have 2 swinging gates on the offensive line. Even in the Giant game, Coleman and Connerly were the worst performers on offense, according to Pro Football Focus. And what happened on Thursday, because they weren't given enough time to correct their problems pass protecting, Green Bay exposed a huge problem that we have. We have 2 swinging gates. And secondly, I didn't know Jaden Daniels didn't know how to slide still. When are we going to correct the obvious?
Well, he does know how to slide. He does know how to slide.
So why doesn't he? Why doesn't he, Kevin?
Well, this is, we've had this conversation this week. Part of protecting himself is on him. There's no doubt about it. In context, he seems to enjoy contact, number one. Number two is He's young and he feels like, he can take on anybody. And more importantly, he can, make somebody miss. And when he doesn't, he's going to get tackled. 1st and 10, second quarter, 10-10 ball game, scrambles left. There's a chance to get 9 or 10, but he's going to get contacted, or there's a chance to get out of bounds at 5. You got to choose getting out of bounds at 5. These are the things that are going to minimize the hits on him. And we want to see that, because I think if we don't, we're going to be in this position. There's always a chance he could get hurt taking a few hits. We know that in football, but he's got to minimize those hits. I'm with you. He is capable of sliding. We've seen it before, and he's certainly capable with his speed of getting to the sideline and getting out of bounds.
During a meaningless preseason game,
I know that.
He chose what, Kevin? To dive for a touchdown that didn't even matter.
Yeah.
So I appreciate his youthful exuberance. That's why my kids love the dude. Me, I get PTSD. I see RG3. But I'm just going to say this, and then I'll listen to you, because I appreciate the fact that you give us an opportunity to speak. And I love free speech as well. And we need to say that as loud as we can. But anyway, the point is this. If you have a Coleman issue and a Connolly issue, and you've got studs waiting to play, and we're not giving them that chance against not just the Raiders. Who's their head coach? Pete Carroll. He's got national championships. He almost won back-to-back national championships and back-to-back Super Bowl championships. If it weren't for
a pick at the goal line, when they shouldn't have been throwing the football.
He should have handed that ball to Marshawn Lynch.
Yes, he should have.
And he would have been the only coach in history to achieve that. So all I just want to say to everybody in the DMV, you better show up and you better show out, because the team needs every one of us. Whether or not Kevin believes it's alive or not, we still need to show up and show out. Kevin,
thank you, Clay. Appreciate it. Let's go to Mark in Chevy Chase. Mark, where are you? Where's your panic meter right now?
Hey, Kevin. My panic read is at a 0, like the other caller said. I'm just not very concerned this early in the season that we can't work out the glitches. But I will say this. On defense, we need to read run, and we need to cover the players out of the flat. Is this quarterback we're playing this week, is he a running quarterback?
Gino's not a running quarterback, no, but he's certainly not immobile. He's capable of making plays with his legs.
Right. If we can contain their halfback and their quarterback, I think we're going to have a very good day. I will say, I believe we beat Las Vegas in 2020, and I believe we beat them the time before. That was like a Sunday night game or a Monday night game.
Yeah, that was back in 2017. Yep.
Yeah,
thanks.
And this got to be said that the last game was a stinker, was an all-time stinker. Reminded me of that old owners team. So hopefully this game we don't throw out another Schneider stinker, I'm calling them.
Hope you're right, Mark.
So,
hope you're right. Good
all
call.
right.
Appreciate it. Let's go to our guy Mark in Largo. Where are you? 0, no concern one way or the other. 5, this is must win.
Kevin, I'm at 0. Kevin, why are you sounding like this, man? My God. I'm at 0. You sound like...
Why am I sounding like what, Mark?
Where you at, Mark?
What am I sounding like what?
0 fun. Come on, Kevin. Kevin, look. If they run the damn ball, they'll be fine.
Okay.
This is about Cliff, man. I know you love them throwing the ball, Kevin. I know you just have...
What are you talking about, Mark? It was one of my top things out of last week. They needed to try to run the football.
Well, yes. If they can run the ball, they can make a note, run the ball between 20 and 25 times.
Mark, where are you? Are you? You're 0,
times.
no concern, right?
No concern at all.
No concern. This is not a big game, one way or the other. If they lose, it's not a big deal at all.
Huge game. Look, let me tell you this.
Hold on here. Hold on here.
Okay.
You just said it was a 0. That means you're saying it's not a huge game. You're not worried about the result of this game. The question is this a must-win 5, or is this absolutely benign, win or lose 0? You said 0, and then you said a huge game. Which one is it?
They'll win. They'll win the next 2 games.
I'm not asking for the prediction. That comes later. Is this a must-win game? Do they have to get this one?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
You got to win this thing.
Yeah,
because when
okay.
the
So
Eagles
you're at what a 3, 4, or 5, right? Not a 0. So you basically agree with me.
For them to win, it's important for them to win this game.
Yeah. Okay. So we're in agreement.
I think
actually,
they will win the game.
Yeah.
Look, the Raiders got a short week this week, and that's what a lot of people don't realize. The Raiders are coming east. They got
mention that maybe 100 times this week. And we all know where Las Vegas. Not everybody does, but most people know Las Vegas. To get to Washington, they've got to go east.
You love busting my chops, don't you?
Well, you're uncoachable.
Get him on here
always. You jump on me at the beginning, and the bottom line is you agree with me. I think this is a big game too.
Kevin, I love you, man. I mean, look, I'm just saying, Kevin, I think we're over-exaggerating. Look, I understand. I mean, the last caller who said, or the callers before last said, Laramie Tunsil and Brandon Coleman need to get better at pass protection. They will. They will. A lot of people have to take a chill pill. This offensive line has only played together for about 2 weeks, fully noted. And it's going to change come October 5th when we beat up on the Chargers. Hopefully the Chargers come in that game undefeated. Jaden comes back. Jaden humiliates Justin Herbert.
I didn't ask you to play out the rest of the season for us. So you think this is a huge game? You think it's a huge game? Yes, I'm in agreement with you. Average minds think alike. All right, I got to get to some other calls. Sabah's got a really interesting take, Max tells me. Go ahead, Sabah.
Okay, Kevin. And hey, Mark from Largo. I like when we disagree and still respect each other. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, here we go. I think that we actually have a better chance of winning with Marcus Mariota. You know, I was not a fan of his when I'm one of those, raised my hand, that did not like the signing.
You think they've got a better chance with Marcus Mariota because Jaden's hurt? You don't want to see him playing hurt.
Jaden doesn't have his fastball, and he knows it. He is not playing confident. Teams are not letting him run, and so he's holding the ball, getting hit, a la the guy in Cincinnati, Joe Burrow. I'm off of him. I'm tired of these guys who get hurt, and we have to treat them like porcelain little dolls. That ain't going to work. And so I think Marcus Mariota
he didn't run. He didn't run against
the
Packers. He had 68 yards rushing in the opener against the Giants.
But he held the ball. He wouldn't get rid of it. He held the ball just like Burrow. They held the ball. They don't get rid of it. They get hit. They get hammered. Yeah. No, then get rid of it then. There is a way quarterbacks can protect themselves like the Branding and the Mannings do. And even Russell Wilson. He would always avoid that hit. He would get out of bounds or run it.
So
or,
your concern level for Sunday is what?
Minimal, like a 2 or 3, because I think we have a better chance. We're on so much more.
I know, but the nature of the game, is it a big game? Is it must win, or is it's just too early for it to be a must win?
It's not a must win. It's too early to tell.
Okay.
Everything. Listen, you talking about injuries. You're giving us all these excuses about injuries. Well, look what Detroit had when we played them.
I'm not
they
giving
had
any
no
excuses.
People.
I just think the team's better with Jaden Daniels and Marcus Mariota.
We're without this and we're without that. Listen, the bottom line is ask how the NFL works. And I want my quarterback to be upright and know how to play the game the right way. This is why I don't like these running guys that keep getting hit. So if he's going to get hit, I've said this before, people hate me for it. If he's going to get hit, and let us know now, because I don't want to pay guys second contract and they end up like Joe Burrow, never on the field.
The best.
Never
You're
on the
so
field.
Good.
Okay?
This is one of your better calls in recent weeks. And by the way, some of it is commonsensical. It is because he cannot continue to take these shots. There's no doubt about it.
Right.
But the idea that you think they're better off with Mariota on Sunday than Jaden, that is definitely, I would guess, a minority opinion. But you're not afraid of those at all, which is why, we tolerate you. We like Sabah sometimes. Mike, Mount Airy, finish it up for us. Hurry up.
Hey, Kevin, this game is a 5. We got totally outcoached last week on both sides of the ball. We've had ample time to prepare. We've got to show that we are prepared to coach, that we are prepared to play, that our backup quarterback is prepared to play. It's a must-win. We should win, but we've got to prove that we can recover from that abominable game last week. It's a 5.
It's a 5. Code red. He finishes it up. Has to win on Sunday. Yeah, it'd be nice to not only win, but to feel good about the win. The news is coming fast. It does really appear as if Jaden Daniels will be out on Sunday. Adam Schefter indicating that right now as well. Ben Standing will jump on with us next. He'll have an update who's out there, who isn't on this final practice before the game Sunday. And then we will carry some of Quinn's press conference next hour. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980, the team980.com. All of our football talk on this show brought to you by Paramount Plus. You can't count on much these days. You can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. Watch your local NFL game every Sunday on CBS and Paramount Plus all season long. Visit ParamountPlus.com/NFL to get started today. All right, the news is coming pretty quickly, but nothing's definitive yet. As I mentioned at the top of the show, I've got a strong lean that Jaden will be out Sunday against the Raiders and Marcus Mariota will get his first start this year against his old team. By the way, if he were to start next week, it would be back-to-back against former teams. But we're not at next week yet. We're still at this week. The team's out practicing right now. And who knows what Dan Quinn will have for us in the next hour or so. But our insider, Ben Standig, joins us right now at Ben Standig on X, on Twitter. Ben's Substack is outstanding. It's called Last Man Standing. I'm a subscriber. You should be too. Ben's got a podcast called Last Man Standing as well. So give us an update. What's going on out there?
Yeah, there were 3 quarterbacks out on the practice field, none of them wearing number 5. So, you know, Dan Quinn said Jaden would have to practice. He would need to see him practice in order for him to play. So all signs are pointing to him not playing. Now, that said, he could have come out after the media had to leave. Could be out there right now as I'm talking to you practicing. I don't know. They could change their mind and say, we think he's good to go. There was subterfuge last year with the rib injury in this regard, but as it stands, all signs are pointing to him not playing.
Yeah, I think that the thing about what happened last year when he didn't practice, or he came out there after you guys left on the Friday. A rib injury is just completely different than a knee injury. A rib injury, you take a shot, it's pain tolerance, the whole thing. The knee is different. I think for me, one of the things I'm very interested in, and I don't think anybody's given any indication about this because it's been all about the absolute present and the upcoming game against the Raiders. If he is ruled out, and my guess is where yours is, we don't know much about the injury still. I mean, is it just a 1-week thing, or could it be worse?
Yeah, no, it's been incredibly vague. I mean, I know there's been some mention of a knee sprain, but that doesn't do much for us either. So, yeah, as we all know, we're all, medical doctors when it comes to the NFL injury report. And, just because you say a knee and a sprain doesn't, for each person, it could mean you play immediately or you're out a month. I mean, who knows? So we'll have to see. I think in general, he's, pretty tough kid. So I would think if he's able to go, if next week, if that's what we're looking at, then I would imagine he would certainly do everything he could to. But yeah, we have no idea what's going on. And I don't imagine even if we ask today that Dan Quinn is going to give us too much on that other than to say he's in or out or a game time decision.
Yeah, because the bottom line is no matter what we think in terms of competitive advantage gained and how significant it is, it's not zero to make the other team prepare for 2 quarterbacks, even if the systems, and the play calling are going to be similar. Pete Carroll talked about it this week. He was preparing for Jaden, but he also had to prepare for both. And, I think that these guys are smart enough to try to take advantage of that opportunity. Obviously, you can't take that advantage of that opportunity if it's a really bad injury, as in we got to put them on injured reserve. And nobody's talking about that. We've got Ben Standing on the show. Who else is missing? And will it be that Noah Brown and John Bates, who Quinn earlier this week said were long shots, do they remain long shots? Will they be out, do you think, Sunday as well?
I would assume so, yes. Again, didn't see either of them out there. Caveat, again, they could come back out. But in those cases, Quinn, as you said, called them long shots. He did, like, earlier in the week, hey, Noah Brown looked a little better today. But, I don't imagine that either of those guys end up playing. And, we continue to look at the offense. Obviously, missing Jaden's a whole other category. But, from just last week, the starting quarterback, your best running back, your second outside receiver, and your only blocking tight end all out. That is a huge difference. And, Bates and Brown aren't viewed as, they're not on the poster, right? They're not the guys that Fox would have highlighted in this game at the start, but they're very integral pieces here. And partly because there's no obvious backup for any of them. And to some degree, the same thing with Eckler, at least they have a few options with McNichols and Bill and Chris Rodriguez. But yeah, it's a very interesting deal. It's going to be really interesting to see what Cliff Kingsbury does because, like I said, he just doesn't have the same.
Yeah,
the individual. He doesn't have the type of personnel to easily replace some of those guys.
Yeah, I think we've talked about it before, and you pointed it out for a while. The depth issues at various spots, and they've been hit at those spots. But most teams don't have great depth at every spot either. And by the way, the John Bates position in general tends to be tough to find. So let's go through each of them. I want to start in the backfield. They're going to have three guys up. It's going to be Merritt. It's going to be Rodriguez, and it's going to be Jeremy McNichols. How do you see it playing out in terms of who does what and when?
Yeah, so I would think sort of early downs, maybe obvious run situations. I would think Bill is the guy they go with. Now, one of the things I talked about probably with you, and I certainly did on my podcast, was that the fact that he only had 4 carries in the last game and had 1 less snap than McNichols after out-snapping McNichols the first game was probably a sense of they don't fully trust him yet as a blocker or all the other things you have to do besides being a runner. And Kingsbury effectively acknowledged that to some degree today, which is reasonable. I mean, he's a rookie, 7th-round pick, all those things. So I don't know that they're going to feel comfortable enough for him to be out there for all the downs. So I would think obvious passing downs, McNichols comes in. And then, if it's 3rd and short or goal line, maybe that's Chris Rodriguez time. Maybe Chris Rodriguez gets a full series at some point. I'd like to see it. But, so I thought that would be my assumption of how they're going to handle things.
Yeah, I agree with that. What about Bates? You and I talked about this the other day. I think we actually talked about it off the air too, but no Bates means what in terms of his replacement?
Well, it's pretty clear based on usage last week when Ben Sinnott still only played 3 snaps despite Bates missing more than half the game. And I asked Kingsbury, what's the deal? Is he not do you guys not view him as that type of guy? And, he basically was like, look, I think he can handle some of that. But yeah, we view him more of the Zach Ertz type than the Bates type. So, and Colton Yankoff weighs 40 pounds less than Bates. So he's not an option. So my assumption would be, we could, I don't know, maybe they do 2 running backs at some point with McNichols as sort of as the de facto blocker to help. And that way it keeps Bill on the field. I also think, and I would expect, this is my guess, that we see the six offensive linemen bit, not just at the goal line, but, presumably in more short yardage situations than anything, but perhaps even as, 3rd and, obvious passing down, with Josh Connerly on the right side and Max Crosby figuring to be across from him a lot. They obviously have to find ways to help him out. And if you don't have that other tight end, what are you going to do? So I think that's probably how I would look at it. I would hope that Sinnott would get more work, but in what role? I just don't think it's going to be in that blocking back role.
All right. What about Noah Brown's replacement?
Kevin, I couldn't tell you. I mean, honestly, what
is it? Chris Moore?
Yeah. I would assume him. He's the most experienced of the options that they have, and obviously he had the 39-yard catch last week. But there's not a ton of upside there at all. The upside is Jalen Lane, but he's a 5'10" slot receiver. They may have to put him outside, but that's not ideal. So I guess I'm sure what they really hope is that they feel comfortable enough with Luke McCaffrey to say, you go out there. I know McCaffrey at least had a little bit of signs of life at the end of the Green Bay game, but that would be the ideal scenario, that he's ready to go. But based on what we have seen, I can't make that assumption. So yeah, if in terms of literally who's on the field the first play, I would guess Chris Moore. But I think all these guys are probably going to have to play and see what they can do.
All right, how do you see the game? Let's assume Mariota is the starter.
Yeah, I mean, to steal a term from basketball, this feels like a rock fight. It doesn't feel like Washington's offense is going to be that explosive. And, the Raiders have some pieces, Brock Bowers, but he's banged up. Geno Smith is a totally solid quarterback coming off a 3-pick game. Ashton Genty, the 6th pick in the draft, running back, he isn't quite broken out yet. So I don't know. This feels like a kind of a low-scoring game. I mean, I think, if Washington – they're missing a lot of guys, but, if Washington is a true contender at home against, you have a massive rest advantage against the Raiders, traveling across country, all those things, this is a game they should win. I mean, again, maybe it's ugly. Maybe it's 20 to 16, 20 to 13, something like that. But, they should find a way. I mean, I think the key is going to be, what does their defense look like? The defense is relatively whole, other than missing Dietrich Wise for the year. So if they look like they did against the Giants, this shouldn't be that complicated. If they look like they did against the Green Bay, and obviously the Raiders have one of the best tight ends in the league in Brock Bowers, that that doesn't bode well. So if the defense comes out and does what they're supposed to do, what they look like in week 1, then this is should be a comfortable win.
Just real quickly, any chance we see Preston Smith on Sunday or not?
I mean, I guess it's conceivable, but I would lean no. I mean, they activated Jalen Holmes, so if you sort of say that Holmes is in the wise spot, you don't really need Preston Smith this week. That would give you 9 offensive or defensive linemen. So I would imagine he sits out this week. But look, I don't know what he looks like in practice. Just seeing him physically, he looks like a monster. So he looks the part, but he just obviously hasn't practiced or anything for weeks. So I would imagine no, but we'll see.
All right, I know you got to roll here, but just one last one. Just did it with callers. Like, would you categorize this game as must win, really need to have, or it's just too early to be concerned with, whatever the result is?
I mean, probably in the grand scheme of things, it's too early. But I feel like this is maybe it's not must win, but it's can't lose. If that difference makes any sense, because look, other than the Dolphins, who are, look like they're in free fall, the Raiders are probably the worst team on paper that Washington's going to face the rest of the way. It's at home. And I think we discussed this the other day. You get past these next 4 weeks and the schedule gets crazy, both in terms of the opponents and also the, Thursday, Sunday night, Mondays, all those things. So this is the time they need to make hay. If Jaden was playing, I'd say they probably have to go at least 3-1 for me to feel good. 2-2 right now without knowing Jaden's deal would probably be good enough. But I kind of don't lose this game. That's all. I mean, again, I don't want it's not the pressure of must win, but boy, our conversation on Monday with a loss would be bleak.
Yeah, there would be some panic, even from the people that just told me that they wouldn't be panicked. Thanks, appreciate it. Get out there and do what you need to do. I'll talk to you over the weekend.
Awesome, man. See you.
Ben Standing, everybody. We'll carry some Quinn live. Are we breaking here, Max, or are we taking it to the end? I forget what you did with those.
Let's hit that break here, and we'll be back at the top of the hour.
We'll do that. We'll take a break here. Be back at the top of the hour. Quinn is going to speak after practice. It's very possible they'll rule Jaden out today. It's also possible that he won't give us much information, and he'll keep it alive until Sunday when the inactive list comes out. Keep it here. We'll have that. I've got smell test picks next hour. If we've got time, we'll go around the rest of the NFL in terms of the big games of the weekend. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980, theteam980.com. We're also free and live on the Odyssey app. And I do want to tell you about our good friends at Foley Mechanical. So Foley Mechanical, for those of you in need, full-service HVAC contractor offering heating, air conditioning, hot water, and boilers. We were having HVAC issues. We were put in touch with Foley Mechanical. They came out. They took care of it. They did not mess around. In fact, Dan Foley, who owns Foley Mechanical, came out himself, dealt with us directly. Impressive person, impressive company. He owns 100% of the company. It's not a franchise. It's not some big private equity firm. They control the quality, from the equipment to the people that they hire. His team, professional, skilled, really, really smart, and very customer service oriented. Foley Mechanical is full service, heating, air conditioning, hot water, and boilers. And they're the go-to for older homes with radiator heat, a real specialty. They work across DC, Maryland, and Virginia, and they proudly install Amana HVAC equipment. If your system needs help or you just want it done the right way, call Foley Mechanical or go to FoleyMechanical.com and tell Dan that I sent you.
All right. Happy Friday, everybody. It has been a quiet day around the world of DC sports. No word on Jaden Daniels' status for Sunday just yet. That should hopefully be coming soon with Dan Quinn speaking to the media later this afternoon. So we will look around the rest of the league to see what's happening. Thursday Night Football. Last night, the Bills, they took on the Miami Dolphins. Close game for the most part. And then the Bills closed it out off a Tua Tagovailoa interception late in the fourth quarter on a drive to try and tie the game. Dolphins kept it close, or as close as they could, with a banged-up defense. Buffalo wins 31-21. Clayton Kershaw announced his intention to retire from the MLB at the end of this season, closing the book on a career spanning nearly 2 decades. The 3-time Cy Young winner says he's at peace with the decision and that it is, quote, the right time, end quote. Tonight, the Nats, they shift their focus to a weekend series versus the New York Mets from the Big Apple. Andrew Alvarez in line to start for the Nats against Brandon Sproat. First pitch at 7:10. Nats on deck with Charlie and Dave at 6:40. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type in the Team 980, hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live every day from 10 to 1. You can catch Denton's office throughout all football season. Don't forget to hit the like button whenever you do decide to join us and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports. And that is what's trending.
We're waiting for Dan Quinn to address the media today. As far as we know, Jaden Daniels was not at practice at the beginning of the practice, which was open to the media. It's possible he came in and practiced after they closed the practice to the media. I mentioned in the very beginning of the show, it was my belief and strong hunch that Marcus Mariota would be the starting quarterback on Sunday against the Raiders. We could get confirmation of that from Quinn here in the next few minutes. We'll carry it when he begins to talk. So I wanted to mention real quickly, Mark Maskey does a great job with kind of NFL coverage, especially when it comes to the rules stuff. And he broke some news yesterday on the Tush Push. I'm not sure all of you saw this. So he had the story that the league sent out a training tape for game officials this week, saying that the Eagles should have been called for a false start that went unpenalized on at least one of their tush pushes in Sunday's win over Kansas City. And they instructed referees to, quote, call these plays tight and make sure that every aspect of the offensive team is legal, closed quote. So this is the tape. Gets distributed to head coaches and general managers, and of course the league's officiating department midweek every week. This was the emphasis this week. Here is the way it read from Ramon George, the NFL's vice president of officiating, in his training tape and his letter to officials. Quote, anytime we have this situation, we're in short yardage, we know we want to make sure that we officiate these plays. The offensive team has to be perfect in every aspect. We want to officiate it tight. We want to be black and white and be as tight as we can be when we get into this situation where teams are in this bunch position and we have to officiate them being on sides and movement early. Prior to the snap, and he's talking about one of the plays in which there was a clear false start. Looks like we have movement by the right guard. We also have movement coming across from the defensive side. This is a very hard play to officiate. I get it. But you can see the right guard moves early. You've got your defender who's trying to punch the ball. But more so, we have a false start coming from the right guard. We want to make sure that we officiate these plays tight and make sure that every aspect of the offensive team is legal, and any movement that's not correct, we want to shut it down as a false start. False start would be the proper call here. So after the abomination on Sunday at Arrowhead with 6 tush pushes, they're going to try to crack down. So that is a first major step. If the Eagles can't get away with, and by the way, some of these penalties will be against the defense, but if the Eagles can't get away with lining up off sides or false starting, and now you've got a 4th and 6 or a 3rd and 6 or a 3rd and 7, because they do it on 3rd and 2 as well, that would be a start. I still think ultimately they're going to get rid of this play because I think it just brings the game from a dramatic standpoint to a halt, because it's the only play that for the most part has a predetermined result. And the NFL doesn't want that. They want drama. They want excitement in every snap of the football, which is why they moved the PAT back and which is why they changed the kickoff rules. So there you go. All right, let's go around the NFL. All right. All right, Max, take us through the NFL card.
All right, we start off. I went in the order of the packets that I received, starting off in Carolina, where the Panthers take on the Falcons. Falcons coming off their 22-6 win at Minnesota. Pass rush looked pretty dominant. Jalen Walker and James Pierce both recording at least half a sack. The Panthers entered this game 0-2, recording losses to the Jags and Cardinals. Sleepy first 3 quarters for the Panthers offense, but they showed some life in the final stretch, making it a 1-score game. Kickoff 1 p.m. Head referee Craig Rolstad. Opening line was Falcons plus 1.5. It has moved. The Falcons are now favored minus 5.5, over under 43.5 or 44, depending on where you get it. Kevin, do you think this offense carries over, or will the Falcons defense stay stout against the Panthers?
Yeah, let me just mention the opening line might have been plus 1.5 in the offseason, but when we got to the regular
that's
season,
generally where a lot of these I feel like came from.
The Falcons have been impressive. They've been very impressive. What was your specific question? Sorry.
So do you think the Panthers offense carries over into this game after heating up in the fourth quarter? Or does the Falcons defense remain as stout as they've looked these past two games?
Falcons defense has been very impressive. I think this is a tough spot for the Panthers. I considered it for the smell test because the world's on Atlanta, but there are other factors in it. Look, I think what's going to be most interesting for Atlanta is when they require their quarterback to win a game. That hasn't been the case in the first two games. They've been outstanding defensively. He threw for 298 in the opener and a touchdown, no picks. He played very well in the opener. They really didn't need Michael Penix Jr. to do anything against Minnesota. They dominated that game. They frustrated and injured J.J. McCarthy. I think Penix Jr. can deliver. I think they've got arguably the best back in the best backfield in the league. The surprise so far, no doubt, has been Atlanta's defense. They invested in it. They drafted it. If that defense is as good as we've seen in the first two games, the Falcons are going to be a factor this year. I like them to win at Carolina. I don't like the game either way from a point spread standpoint. What's next?
All right, we go to Cleveland, where the Packers and Matt LaFleur look to get off to their third 3-0 start since his arrival in Green Bay. Browns walk into this one 0-2 after a bad loss to the Ravens, ended up snowballing them and ending in 41-17. Kickoff 1 p.m. Head referee Carl Cheffers. Opening line Packers -6.5. It has jumped to Packers -8. Over under 41.5. Kevin, does Green Bay continue to roll, or do the Browns shock the world somehow on Sunday?
Well, Green Bay was so impressive. They've been the most impressive team in the league through 2 weeks, no doubt. The Browns have been one of the most impressive defensive teams in the league through the first 2 weeks, and Myles Garrett's off to an MVP season defensively. I mean, the Packers defense outstanding, the Browns defense outstanding. The problem is that the Browns really, and they're going to start Flacco again, and I love Joe Flacco. He's one of my all-time favorites in terms of just flat-out clutch players. They just don't have enough, and they don't have enough up front. And the Packers win this game. I don't know that they'll cover. It would not surprise me if this game is a little bit closer than most people think, because I think the Browns defense is that good. But it's going to be hard for Cleveland to score enough in this game. I like Green Bay.
All right, next one. AFC South divisional matchup between the Texans at Jacksonville taking on the Jags. Weird matchup between these two teams when you think about how they performed in week 2. Both lost very winnable games that were kind of decided in the waning seconds of the game. Kickoff at 1 p.m. Head referee Alex Kemp. Opening line was Texans -1.5. It has flipped. The Jags are now favored by 1.5. The over-under 44. Which team gets right? Which one starts to think about hitting that panic button, Kev?
This is, if you're in Houston doing the segment we did last hour, you're at a 5. You're 0-2. You've won the division 2 years in a row. You had aspirations to win 10 or 11 again this year, be in the mix in the AFC. You can't start off 0-3. All two of both of their losses were super close to the Rams, and then obviously the Baker Mayfield drive on Monday night. Short week going on the road, but the Texans are clearly the desperate team here. And look, their offensive line was a problem last year. It's a problem again. And they haven't had Joe Mixon, in the lineup yet. They've gone with Nick Chubb. He's been okay. I kind of like the Texans to win this game. I don't like it from a point spread standpoint either way. I like the Texans at 0-2. I think the Texans defensively are really good. There may not be a better edge rushing pair than Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson. I'll take the Texans in a very tight game, but if they don't get this one, they got the Ravens coming up. They got the Seahawks on the road coming up. They've got the 49ers. Their season, this is code red in Houston to get this one in Jacksonville.
Yeah, this next one's a doozy. We got Cincinnati headed up to Minnesota. Jake Browning versus Carson Wentz, the heavyweight matchup that we tune in every Sunday for. Cincinnati pretty comfortable handing him the keys to the elite wide receiver core of T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. They look to start 3-0 for the first time since 2015. On the other side, rumors have been swirling about a soft benching of J.J. McCarthy after 7 bad quarters of football where he simply looked lost. Wentz, his replacement, comes into this game as the first quarterback in NFL history to start 6 consecutive years for 6 different teams. Kickoff at 1 p.m. Head referee Ron Torbert. Opening line, Vikings favored by 1.5. It has moved Vikings are now favored by 3 points. Over under is 42.5. Which backup will will his team to victory here, Kev?
I have no idea. This is the biggest mystery game of the weekend for me, because it's Jake Browning against Carson Wentz. You know, Browning did throw 2 picks, even though he threw for 3 touchdowns in relief. If Kevin O'Connell can get Carson Wentz to play at, say, the level that Sam Darnold played at last year, then J.J. McCarthy may not get his gig back. I don't know that that'll happen. I think that Wentz is a bigger project than even Sam Darnold. But Kevin O'Connell is a quarterback whisperer. This one is an interesting game because the Bengals could start off 3-0. And the discussion, by the way, this week has been that Burrow's not out for the season, that he could be back sometime in December. So they have to just stay alive until he gets back. But to watch Carson Wentz out there in a Kevin O'Connell system, I think it's a good system for him for sure. And I would imagine he's going to throw the ball to Justin Jefferson. By the way, Aaron Jones is out in that one, but Jordan Mason is the back that was playing better anyway. This is an absolute, I have no idea game, but the Vikings are at home. It'll be interesting to see Carson Wentz's performance. I think, by the way, the Bengals do have some confidence in Jake Browning. The team does, management does, the coaching staff does. You know, this was, a guy that came out, a few years back, and he has started in like 12 or 13 NFL games and hasn't played that badly when he has played. So I don't know, maybe Cincinnati gets to 3-0.
All right, on up to Foxborough, where the Patriots greet Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers. As you mentioned yesterday, Steelers looked discombobulated against the Seahawks last week, including the special teams gaffe from Caleb Johnson. Patriots quarterback Drake May looked great last week, completing 82% of his passes and throwing for 2 touchdowns. The defense, however, has been some trouble, starting the season without lockdown corner Christian Gonzalez. Kickoff at 1 p.m. Head referee Cleet Blakeman. Opening line was Steelers plus 1.5. It is now moved to Steelers minus 1.5. Over under 44.5. Which team comes out of here 2-1? Which one falls to 1-2, Kev?
This looks like one of those games that I would have. I'd have the home team. I'd have the Patriots, but I'm not going to have it in the smell test. I can tell you that right now. I think Pittsburgh is the desperate team. They've got to play well. The Patriots, they beat the Dolphins. They lost to the Raiders. It's been a little bit shaky here. This is an interesting coaching matchup. I guarantee you this is one where the Steelers feel like they got to get it after the performance last week, losing their home opener. And if they can get this one, they go to Dublin where they'll face the Vikings next week in a game in the first 9:30 in the morning game next weekend, believe it or not. But yeah, I like the Steelers here. That makes no sense with the way I typically handicap games, but I think this is sort of the anti-trap game. I think Pittsburgh comes out on top. I think they're the better team, but man, they have got to get better defensively.
For sure. Biggest matchup of the 1 p.m. slate. Rams return to Philly for the first time since their playoff loss, where Eagles running back Saquon Barkley became the first player in NFL history with 200-plus rushing yards and 2 touchdowns in a playoff game. The Rams coming to this one with a chance to hit 3-0 for the first time, or for the 4th time under Sean McVay. Plus, we got A.J. Brown versus Emmanuel Forbes. Kickoff at 1 p.m. Head referee Brad Rogers. The opening line was Rams plus 4.5. It has moved to Rams plus 3.5. Over under 44.5. Which team gets handed their first loss and which one walks out with a clean record, Kev?
The Eagles have not had a passing touchdown in their first 2 games. They're 2-0. The Rams, they've only allowed 1 touchdown total in their first 2 games. The Rams are loaded, people. They have an S-load of talent on offense and defense. It really comes down to Stafford being healthy for the entire season. He has been outstanding in the first 2 games. I think if this game were at SoFi, even though there'd be a ton of Eagles fans there, I'd feel better about it. They played the Eagles so big and tough in that snow game in the playoffs. I really like the Rams this year, but this is a heavyweight team. I wish we could watch this game. I wish our game wasn't going on at the same time, because this could be a preview of the NFC Championship game. The Rams are that good. Stafford's the key. I don't know. There's something about Jalen Hurts in these big spots, in these big games. He always rises to that level. He plays great in these games. He looks like a different quarterback in these big moments. I'll take the Eagles at home, but it's not going to surprise me if the Rams win. These are two excellent football teams. And let me just mention this. If the Rams go into Philadelphia and win on Sunday, we're automatically putting them into the Philly Green Bay upper tier class, not only to win the NFC Championship game, but to potentially win the Super Bowl. The Nakua Devontae Adams combo is outstanding. I mean, these are two of the best in the league still, and they're on the same team. They're a difficult team to check. Big test for the Eagles, huge test for the Rams. Wish we could watch this one. I'll take the Eagles to win in a very, very tight game.
All right, we head down to the Pirate Ship at Raymond James Stadium, where the 0-2 New York Jets take on the undefeated Tampa Bay Bucks. The Bucks have started the last 5 years with a 2-0 start, but haven't had a season that starts 3-0 since 2005. The Jets coming off a bad week versus the Bills, where Justin Fields recorded the worst QBR of his career and exited the game early with a concussion. Tyrod Taylor takes his place. Kickoff at 1 p.m. Head ref Adrian Hill. Opening line was Jets +7 and a hook. The live line right now, it's kind of all a little moved, but Jets +6.5 or +7, depending on where you can get it. 44 or 44.5 is the over-under. Again, depending on where you can get it. Kevin, can Ty God save the Jets?
Here's a question back to you. Do you think there's that much of a difference between Justin Fields and Tyrod Taylor?
I think Tyrod Taylor throws the football better than Justin Fields does.
I do too. So I give the Jets a shot. The Buccaneers, off that emotional Monday night long drive, they've had two very tight games, short week. This is one of those that may be in the smell test coming up. The Jets kind of feel like a live, road dog this week at Tampa, with Tampa coming in short week, and they're injured along that offensive line. Cansey, Wirfs, their guards also, they are banged up in that offensive line. I think this is a much closer game than people think. The Bucs probably pull it off with a field goal late or a touchdown late to win a close one.
All right, Colts, they are red hot as they headed to Nashville to take on the Tennessee Titans. Colts 2-0 for the first time since 2009, another first team in the Super Bowl era to not record a punt in either of their first two games. Cam Ward and the Titans enter 2-0, but have shown some flashes against some two pretty good defenses. Kickoff at 1 p.m. Head ref Scott Novak. Opening line was Colts +1 and a hook. It has moved to Colts now favored by 4 points.
Those opening lines, you can kill those because those are from like the summer.
Yeah, fair enough.
Indy's a 4.5-point spot. This is definitely a beware game for the Colts. The Colts, by the way, have been very impressive, but they could have easily lost the game last week. They had a penalty on the missed field goal. The Broncos did. And their defense has struggled to pressure the quarterback. And I think the Titans are better than what we've seen here in the first two games. And Cam Ward has not been that bad. I think this is a potential upset spot to drop the Colts to 2-1. I will likely have the Titans in the smell test coming up. But this is going to be a tough game in Nashville for the Colts to get to 3-0. What do you got next?
First of the 4:00 games, Bo Nix and the Broncos travel to LA for a divisional matchup versus Herbo and the Chargers. Broncos enter the game, best offensive line in football, but PFF has Bo Nix dead last in terms of quarterback grades through 2 weeks. Chargers starting to appear as if they are a wagon, looking to go 3-0 for the first time since 2002. Kickoff at 4:05. Head ref Sean Smith. Line is Chargers -2.5. Over under 45.5. Do the Chargers roll, or do the Broncos defense stymie an early MVP candidate in Justin Herbert?
I'm having a difficult time with this one because I think part of me thinks this line being less than 3 means Broncos. But, they lost Khalil Mack, the Chargers did the other night. He won't be in the game against Washington in a few weeks. He's out for a while. Yeah, Bo Nix, 3 interceptions versus zone coverage, tied with Tua, and the Chargers play a ton of zone coverage. Herbert's been sensational this year. Daniel Jones had success. I think the Chargers handle Denver. I think it's a close game, but I think they get to 3-0.
All right, Seahawks welcome the Saints. Two teams I really haven't been paying that much attention to, I'll be honest, but the Seahawks, they're starting to get my attention after that win versus Pittsburgh. Head coach Mike McDonald might be building something with that defense, and the offense looks just fine without DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. Kickoff At 4:05, Alex Moore, the head ref, the live line right now, Seahawks -7 and a hook, over unders 41.5. I assume you've got the Seahawks on the money line, but I'll ask this. Will the Saints cover the 7.5, Kev?
Oh, yeah. And I do not have the Seahawks on the money line. I think this is a danger spot for Seattle. This is going to be probably the biggest public wager and the biggest survivor pool pick this weekend. Spencer Rattler was called by Robert Saleh, the defensive coordinator with San Francisco. He said, this guy is for real, and he's going to be very good. You know, Spencer Rattler, no one's ever questioned his talent. It's been his personality that has been questioned. I mean, there are stories about Spencer Rattler at the Manning camp, at the Elite 11, you know, that just are legendary about what a total tool he was. But young people mature, you know, just because he was that as a 20-year-old doesn't mean he's going to be that forever. He has played well. He's clearly got the confidence of the team around him. I understand what they are, 0-2, but they've had a chance in both games. He has protected the football. He's played good, really good football. They've got weapons, the Saints do. We'll see in his first road game, because both of these games that they were close in against Arizona and San Francisco, both were at home. But I like the Saints to keep this one close and maybe pull off an upset.
All right. Dallas, they head up to Soldier Field for America's quote-unquote game of the week, even though we know it's not. Dak and the Cowboys offense look like they're humming. Now the Bears are dealing with injuries as DBs Jalen Johnson, Jalen Jones, and Kyler Gordon all have yet to practice this week. Shoddy might be licking his chops here, especially after what he saw his team do versus the Giants. At kickoff, 4:25, head ref Clay Martin. Live line right now, Cowboys are -1 and a hook, over under 50.5. Can Ben Johnson, the Bears, avoid the dreaded 3-0 start, Kev?
Yeah, they can. They're going to get healthy on Dallas's defense. I think everybody's going to get healthy on Dallas's defense. This is going to be one of those weeks where we say, Ben Johnson still has it, and look what he's doing with Caleb Williams. They've got a lot of weapons, the Bears do. I think the Bears, just like the Giants, are going to go up and down the field. This is going to be a high-scoring game, and I give the Bears a really good chance to win the game. If the Cowboys are going to go have themselves a season, they got to fix their defense. I don't know that it's fixable with the talent they have. If they're going to be one of those teams that fights to get to 9-8 because they're really good offensively, this is a game they got to get. You know, you got to go into Soldier Field and beat a Bears team that's definitely beatable. I like Chicago here in a very high-scoring game. I mean, something like, 30-27, somewhere in that neighborhood. I think we could see a shootout Sunday at Soldier Field.
Love that over. All right, 2-0 teams enter, one will leave as the Cardinals take on the Niners in Santa Clara. Kyler Murray has a rushing touchdown each of his last 4 games versus San Fran. On the other side, Brian Robinson Jr. looks for his 3rd game in a row versus Arizona with a rushing touchdown. You parlay it, it's plus 1,500. Kickoff at 4:25, head ref John Hussey. Live line, Cardinals plus 2.5. The over-under kind of all over the place. You can get it as low as 44.5, as high as 46.5. Kevin, who comes out atop the NFC West?
This is a big early season matchup in the NFC West with 2-0 teams. Of course, you could say the Cardinals really haven't necessarily played anybody. The Panthers and the Saints, even though the Saints were, a live dog at home that day as they were against the Niners. I mean, the Niners are banged up. It's going to be Mac Jones, I think, again for this game. Boy, this is a tough one to call. I think the San Francisco defense looks pretty good so far, and it's healthy so far. I like the 49ers, but I could see this coming down to a last-second field goal either way.
For sure. All right, nightcap. Two 0-2 teams taking on each other. Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs head to East Rutherford, take on Russell Wilson, the Giants. Heartbreaker for the Giants after Russ threw that INT in overtime. The Chiefs looking to get off the schneid following losses to the Chargers and Eagles, their first 0-2 start since 2014. Patrick Mahomes, 8-1 in his last Sunday Night Football appearances. Kickoff 8:20, head ref Lan Clark. Kevin, which team finally comes out with a win?
The Chiefs could go to 0-3 here, and I still wouldn't count them out for the season. God, they don't have anything offensively right now. Everybody's injured. Obviously, losing Xavier Worthy was big. They don't get Rashee Rice back for a while. This is going to be one of those games. If the Giants protect the football, I think they can get off the field a bunch against the Chiefs. And I think we could see, I know it was 40-37 last week against the Cowboys. I think we could see a 19-17 kind of game on Sunday night. I give the Giants a shot here, and I like them to cover. And even if they were to win this game, I would not count the Chiefs out. They'll get healthier. They'll get players back. But really, if you're a Chiefs fan with the Ravens on deck next week, you really need this one Sunday night at MetLife. But I don't think it'll be easy. All right. Good job, Max. We are through all of the NFL games. Dan Quinn set to speak. We'll carry that. I got a smell test for you. We've got predictions on Sunday's game. All of that coming up and more. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the team980.com. We've got an answer to the starting quarterback. Dan Quinn started this press conference about a minute ago. We're going to pick it up from the very beginning so you guys can hear what he said out in Ashburn.
Up on the captains and discuss those. So on offense, Laramie Tunsil and what impact he's made, this consistency, the standards. He's really impacted us on and off the field. On defense, it'd be Deron Payne, and really just kind of pointed out to the team his intentional work. It's been from the spring through camp, and a guy ready to go. And then on special teams, Percy Butler, guy's just been an absolute, badass teams on the field, off the field. We love his nature, what he brings to us. So three excellent guys there. Want to give a quick congrats to Josh and Mark Klaus. Final vote of RFK. That's big news, for the fans, for the city, and a lot of people, worked really hard, to create an opportunity like that. And so just want to acknowledge that. And then coming off a long wait, we're ready to go. Two tough teams, ready to go fight and battle for it. Right attitude, right mindset. We're a resilient group. That's what I felt from the beginning. And that's where we're at. So I'm not going to go through the entire injury report, but give updates when I can. Jaden was limited today on the field. We decided to start Marcus and said at the beginning we were going to be very diligent on his return to play and make sure we didn't miss any steps. So we're going to be smart, not just fast. And player wants to do everything all the time. That's who he is as a competitor, which I love. But that's how we'll roll. So take all your questions, going from here.
So just to be clear, Jaden will not play Sunday.
Correct.
Okay. Were you able to watch him run at all? Did you see him test that knee? And what was the final, what did it come down to for you?
Yeah, just not being there all the way yet, John, honestly, like being able to do everything. So there's also a side that it was an excellent week because the progress and encouragement to go. So the fact that he was able to throw, all days and get running in today, we're just not there all the way yet, John. So it wasn't just one specific, test that I was looking for.
What was he able to do today in a limited capacity?
Speed work and throwing. So, running, linear running, speed work. So there's, it's a good, kind of next to, getting ready to play.
Was he close enough that it made it a difficult decision, or was it very clear that it was not time?
Yeah, I didn't really put it into that space. Yeah, I'd better one for the medical guys on that one, Nikki. I think just shut your eyes when you know it's ready to go. And like I said, we're just not going to do this things in a fast way. We're doing it in a smart way and make sure we make the right decisions. I think I said earlier, we know, his importance to us and what we do, but it's going to try to just be as smart as we can, honestly.
Dan, over the years, how have you come to accept the fact that you have to sometimes you have to tell the most determined athletes in the world, you can't go this week.
Yes.
You can't play this week.
And I learned that probably as a head coach of the A to say, I remember going back to Matt Ryan, like he was trying and he couldn't say no. I said, I got this one. And I remember like he had an ankle and I just, you're out, and just nodded his head because he couldn't get himself to say, DQ, I'm not right. And so that's part of it for us to trust our eyes. There's metrics and things, speeds and those tests. We also like the eye test still works too. And through the years, sometimes it goes all the way to game day. And then you could feel that part to say, can you be yourself? And yes. But there's also players that like protect them from themselves. And I think that's probably just, come through the years of experience, DA.
There you go. I guess I was just going to ask, what was the thought process between announcing it now versus waiting until this game? Just to the point where...
Correct. Yep. So I just thought, hey, man, this is where we're at and go through another good workout in tomorrow to go keep pushing at that space. So just kind of staying on course, really, and go after it hard again tomorrow.
No, you guys have talked about, the confidence that you have in Marcus if he needed to step in. But, particularly in this matchup against the Raiders, what gives you sort of reaffirmation that he's going to be able to handle things on offense, how Cliff wants it to be run?
Yeah, a lot of zero, honestly, to do with this week. And so when we have him here, it's having two QBs in the building. And we've been together now going into our second season. So the room's pretty fantastic. They lean on each other, what things are best, how to feature the guys into that space. So I would say it's probably our time together of what we've seen, where he's at. About a month ago, he had an Achilles injury, maybe a little longer, but he really worked hard to get that part right. And maybe 3 weeks ago or so, man, you could feel all the things coming back in the first, week of the season, working, against the defense on so many things. But he's just got such a strong grasp of what we do and how we get down.
Hi, Dan.
Good afternoon.
What can you tell us about the exact nature of the injury to Jaden? And do you have a sense of how long this might keep him from playing?
I wish I was smarter at that, but I'm not going to play the doctor. I just can't. But what I can say is that, like when you're out running on the grass, that's a good sign that you're making progress and you're hitting all the right marks. And so it also takes your legs to throw a lot. It's not just an upper body stationary throw. It's everything to go through that, your movements to stuff. So we're definitely encouraged about where, the progress is being made. But as far as the specifics of it, I won't go into, but I can say that he's making like good progress. So I wanted to see the speeds and the throwing, although it just seems like you would think that's just upper body. It's way more than that, different platforms. How do I, move and go? So that's a big part of it too. But there's also in and out of the pocket, doing all the things to go. So we still got work to do.
Hi, Coach Quinn. I'm actually JP's backup.
All right. You're a starter.
Yeah.
Now, here we
it's
go.
a starter.
JP who?
I don't think I've heard this.
You're in the game. You're not the backup. You're a starter.
That's good point. Good point. I don't think this has been asked yet. When did you tell Jaden and what was his reaction? I'm sure obviously he wanted to play, but understanding the situation.
Yeah. It was going to be during the, post-practice today to make sure we could hit all the marks. And like for an athlete and a competitor like he and some of his teammates, first thing we want to do is make sure, check in from the neck up and see this is where we're at. And it's the best thing to do for the team, even though it's hard. It's the more difficult right over the easier wrong. And, that's why I want to make sure also, what do we learn from these? What do we grow from? The only thing worse than not seeing them out there on the bench is, not getting to what's the lessons, how do we apply them? And this guy's a real competitor, like to his core. And that's where we're at.
It was just like cool.
Jaden Daniels is out Sunday. Marcus Mariota will start. Dan Quinn's press conference continues from Ashburn.
That's kind of the way we roll on everything. We're really upfront with the guys and tell them what we want, what we're looking for, and where we're at. So we just don't want them to live in any gray, not knowing where they stand or what's going down. So I think it's important. They put so much into it that we don't bullshit them either. Say, this is what I see. And fortunately, we've all had, some good time together. So we have a lot of trust. And we're always going to make the best decisions for the guys.
Hey, good afternoon, Coach.
Good afternoon.
I know you talked about before having contingency plans in case one guy or another guy kind of has to go out, but the sheer amount of volume of players that you're going to be missing, potentially even with other guys this weekend versus last week, how do you feel like your staff has kind of reacted to adjusting as needed?
Yeah, we talked about it right off the bat, Dave, to be honest with you, to say that's part of adversity, and it's going to come for every team. It just happened on the injury side to hit ours earlier than some, but you want to make sure we talked to the players at the beginning. All of you are likely to have a chance to go win it. We want you to think of that not as a possibility, but as a certainty. And so when we talk about our roster, if you're on the practice squad or not, to come up, it's not, don't worry about it. We're still learning it. You have to know the system. You have to get reps at practice. And so that's why we really push one another for the readiness. And that way, when you do get called up or activated, it's not, how I got to learn this or I got to be on this. Like, no, man, the system, keep working your skills. So it can be frustrating for the player waiting, but, it's cliches and stay ready and all that. But if you put them in, you're also in practice. I'm saying you're proving that you are. You're proving that you can be counted on and be ready to deliver. And like we are, if I had 3 words for this team, resilient AF. And we've got, AF's not a word I know, but the part that I love about our group, that these guys really care, they want to fight for it. And it's just all that counts, man. So it's what I would expect from us to step into spaces and deliver.
Dorrance Armstrong, we've talked about him being in the backfield a lot before, but just not finishing maybe as much as he would like and you would like as well. A sack in each game so far this season. How positive is it for you to see him finishing a little bit more regularly? And where do you think he needs to kind of take that next step to even go further?
Yeah, I'm proud to see the camp that he had and how he started off onto the season. He's worked hard, and with the versatility we have now, David, we can better feature players in different spots than maybe we were able to a year ago. And how do we find matchups and go, and Vaughn's help with that, and Frankie and Jacob and others. And having flexibility helps. You know, how do you want to match up? How do you want to do things? But you also have to be smart enough to handle all that. And DA is right in the middle of all of that. So I've loved that Vaughn is coming here, has helped him, you know, also. He's been the mentor to Javonte. And now there's other people to, you know, continue with his growth. And he's off to a good start.
All right. That was Dan Quinn. We heard the most important information, kind of what we thought we were going to hear today. Dan Quinn ruled Jayden Daniels out for Sunday. Marcus Mariota will start against his former team, the Raiders. Josh Johnson, I'm assuming he didn't say that necessarily, or maybe he did, but Josh Johnson is the backup. I thought it was very interesting, not necessarily telling in any way, shape, or form, but he was asked, you know, a couple of times. He was asked initially, I know, by Nikki about sort of the nature of the injury and how long you'd be out, and then he was asked that even more pointedly a little while later. And he was not comfortable. I was watching it, not comfortable answering it. They're not giving any information on this injury, period. Essentially, what he said was that he wouldn't elaborate, you know, on the specifics of the injury or how long Jayden will be out, only to say that he is encouraged with the progress. You know, his speed work, his throwing work. But, you know, they're not going to go fast on this. They're going to take it smart. This is a knee, not a rib injury. We've been talking about that all week. But, yeah, I think there's a mystery right now for a lot of people because of the way they have kept a lot of the information close to the vest. Yes, some of you pointed out, how did you know or have a super strong hunch when the show started that it was going to be Mariota? Well, yeah, you get certain things just a few hours away from the announcement. But I'll tell you what, right now, I don't know that anybody knows for sure the nature of the injury other than the people very close to the situation, the team, Jayden, his agent, his family, and maybe some teammates for sure. I do know that he's had a big knee brace on his knee at times during the week. And yeah, we'll see whether or not this turns into a next week thing. We don't have to worry about that until Monday. But my sense is that it will probably, regardless of whether or not he is set to play next week or not, the way they handled it this week, and I think they're smart too, they'll drag it out next week too and make Atlanta prepare for two quarterbacks as long as they can. So there you go. Jayden will miss his first start since he was drafted. Remember, he started that Carolina game and then came back the next week and started against Chicago. So his first start, missing Sunday's game against the Raiders. Week 3, Marcus Mariota. The point spread, you know, dropped the other day just based on the suspicion of Jayden potentially being out from 6.5 to 3.5. It is now down to 2.5 in a lot of spots. I would imagine it'll go to 1.5 or 2 before kickoff on Sunday. All right, when we come back, my smell test picks, and we will give you a Sunday prediction. But it is official. Jayden Daniels out, Marcus Mariota in. We still don't know really the specifics around this knee injury and whether or not it is just a 1-week thing or potentially more. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the team980.com.
All right, happy Friday, everybody. As you just heard, here's what's happening. Jayden Daniels officially been ruled out of the game this Sunday versus Las Vegas. Last night, Thursday Night Football, first Bills took on the Miami Dolphins, closed a close game for the most part, but then the Bills close it out off a Tua Tagovailoa interception late in the fourth quarter on a drive to try and tie the game. Dolphins kept it close, or as close as they could with a banged-up defense. Buffalo wins 31-21. Clayton Kershaw has announced his intention to retire from baseball at the end of this season, closing the book on a career spanning nearly 2 decades. The 3-time Cy Young winner says he's at peace with the decision that it is, quote, the right time, end quote. Tonight, the Nats, they shift their focus to a weekend series versus the New York Mets from the Big Apple. Andrew Alvarez in line to start against Brandon Sprout. First pitch at 7:10. Nats on deck with Charlie and Dave at 6:40. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type the Team 980, hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live every day from 10 to 1. You can catch Denton's office throughout all football season. Don't forget to hit the like button whenever you do decide to join us and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports. And that is what's trending.
All right, 3 straight winning weeks to start the season. 8-6 last week, off to a 1-0 start this week. Had the Dolphins last night plus the points they covered. 14 more picks. We've got 8 tomorrow, and then 9 tomorrow, 5 on Sunday. Nothing tonight in college football. Let's start with Maryland at Wisconsin. Malik Washington's been outstanding as a freshman quarterback so far. Terps have won 3 games at home against really no competition. Wisconsin just faced Alabama last week, lost 38-14. Line is high at 10, actually opened at 7.5, 8. A lot of sharp money on Wisconsin. Public money's on Maryland. I hate to do this, but I do it against Maryland every once in a while, do it against the Skins every once in a while. Wisconsin laying the 10 is a smell test pick. Miami of Ohio is getting 3 at home against Dan Mullen's undefeated UNLV running Rebs. I'll take Miami of Ohio in beautiful Oxford, Ohio, plus the 3 at home. Louisville's giving a massive number to Bowling Green, who's been competitive in their games. I like this Jeff Brom, Miller Moss combination. They're laying 26.5. Give me Louisville at home laying the 26.5. Oklahoma is a surprise team. John Mateer, second pick right now in the Heisman odds. They are in the big 3:30 window. This is, arguably one of the games of the day at home against their former quarterback, Jackson Arnold, and Auburn, who's undefeated. That number is at 7. The world is on Oklahoma. I will take Auburn plus the 7. Ole Miss has been impressive. So is Tulane. The number is less than 2 touchdowns, and the public doesn't think it's high enough. I'll take Tulane plus the 13 in Oxford, Mississippi on Saturday. I gave out Duke 2 weeks ago, getting a very short number at home against Illinois. It did not work out. Now they're favored at home against undefeated NC State. I'll try Duke again, laying the 3 against the Wolfpack. I had West Virginia last week against Pitt. They won the game outright. Now they're getting 13 on the road against Kansas. That's a big number, one that has the average better sort of just betting the underdog and taking what they think is too many points. I'll lay the 13 with the Jayhawks. In one of the games of the day, Indiana's laying 6 against Illinois, the number 9 team in America. God, I hate Cignetti and the way he behaves, but I'll take Indiana and lay the 6. The public actually likes the dog in that one. Stanford, this was the one game Stanford and Vanderbilt last week, I played personally. I don't know why I didn't give them out. Stanford knocked off BC as a big dog last week, and now they're getting 15 coming west to east in a conference game, of course, an ACC game in Charlottesville. I'll take Virginia. Virginia's actually pretty good this year. I'll take Virginia laying 15 at home against Stanford. Let's go to Sunday, where the Titans are 4-point favorites at home against undefeated Indy. This is an obvious public play, Indianapolis. I'll take Tennessee at home plus the 4. The Jets are on the road at Tampa. Short week for Tampa. They're banged up along the offensive line. I don't know that Tyrod Taylor and Justin Fields are that different. I'll take the Jets plus the 7 at Tampa. The Saints, I think Seattle will be one of the biggest survivor pool plays this week. I think the Saints keep it close, plus the 7.5 at Seattle. The Bears are at home. The Cowboys are a massive public play. The public just thinks, Chicago stinks, that Dallas, can score. I see a shootout in this game, but Chicago winning it. I got the Bears at home plus the 1. And then Sunday night, give me the Giants plus the 6 against the Chiefs. Why not? I gave you the Giants last weekend off their pitiful performance against Washington. Look, they played great last week and lost. Nobody thinks Kansas City's going 0-3. It could happen. I'll take the Giants plus the 6. Running it back, Wisconsin. I had Miami last night. Wisconsin minus 10. Miami of Ohio plus 3. That may be a by the half point situation. I see some 3s out there. I see some 2.5s. I'll take Miami of Ohio plus the 3. Louisville minus 26.5. Auburn plus 7. Tulane plus 13. Duke minus 3. Kansas minus 13. Indiana minus 6. And Virginia minus 15. I got a bunch of favorites in there, which is unusual for me. In the NFL, nothing but dogs. The Titans plus 4. The Jets plus 7. The Saints plus 7.5. The Bears plus 1. And the Giants plus 6. For those of you who, when I tweet the picks out, say, well, that's not the number now. Remember, I'm giving you the point spread that I gave the smell test picks out on Friday with. It benefits me sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't. But we stick with the Friday lines for the purposes of sort of keeping track of the whole thing. But yeah, look, I know sometimes I give you a game and by the time it goes off, it's a much worse number. Sometimes it's a better number, but we stick with the Friday lines. These will be available on the team980.com, and I will tweet the picks out, before noon on Saturday and before 1 p.m. on Sunday at Kevin Sheehan, DC. All right, let's finish up with our predictions Sunday now that we know that Marcus Mariota will be starting for Washington. Yeah, I mean, not really a shocker, not certainly since the beginning of this show that it was a shocker. Max, I still like Washington to win this game. I think the Raiders could be a tired team coming in on the short week West-East. I think they got major problems along their offensive line that I think Washington can take advantage of. I think they can defensive lead their way to this win. But I actually think they're going to score points because I think they'll focus on protection. Part of that will be to run the ball to protect Marcus Mariota. Nobody's had success running it against the Raiders, but the Raiders are soft in the secondary. I think Washington, even with Mariota, I think it's going to be a lot easier than it was last Thursday night to move the football and to throw the football. I like Washington winning this game 27-20.
Ooh.
2-1. By the way, that would send the game over the total. 27-20 Washington on Sunday. They're 2-1, and we can take a big sigh of relief, exhale breath. Who do you got?
So I got the Commanders as well. Final score for me, 23-15. I think that what's going to happen is it's not too different from your prediction. I do think that Marcus Mariota is going to do really good at playing in structure, on time, and getting that ball out quick to his receivers. I think that's something we have kind of yet to see from Jaden so far. I think Jaden's been going through his reads and then just seeing it's not there and trying to make a play himself, and it hasn't worked out. But I think Washington's going to go into the fourth quarter lead. I like Marcus Mariota anytime touchdown just because it's a revenge game. I'm always going to bet one of those. But I do think the Raiders try and make it a game at the end with a 2-point conversion in garbage time. That's why my final score 23-15 Commanders.
So wait a minute. You said something about them going for 2 at the end?
I think that the Raiders are going to try and make it a game in garbage time. So they'll be up the Commanders will be up 23-7.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah,
And they'll hit on that first one and then just miss on the onside kick.
Yeah, and then stall out. Yeah.
All right. Good job. I like the 23-15. I actually thought about something like 23-18 or 23-19.
Yeah, I feel a
but
weird
I'm going
score
with 27-20, a more conventional score. Hopefully we're here on Monday talking about 2-1 and getting ready for what will be a big test at Atlanta. And, of course, another week on quarterback watch. But we know who the quarterback will be. They ruled Jaden Daniels out just a little while ago. Marcus Mariota to start on Sunday. Have a good weekend. Enjoy the football. Chris Russell's next. I'm sorry, Doc is in. Doc Walker next. He doesn't care about Jaden Daniels. He only cares about the players that will be in uniform on Sunday. I'll be listening.